Hey there, it's Jamie from Not So Wimpy Teacher, and I'm so stinking excited. It's hard for me to just sit still because we have something really special for you today. As many of you know, the Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass is open for registration only until Thursday, and the Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass is an online professional development program for teachers in grades 2 through 5. They want to become more confident writing teachers, and they want to see their students get excited about writing, and they want to see their students thrive. They want to see those scores go up. They want to see growth. That's what the Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass is all about. It's confidence and it's growth. Registration closes on Thursday, and we will not open registration again until next summer. June 2022. So this is your last opportunity to get in on the program this year. Once you sign up, you have lifetime access, and it is self-paced. So you don't have to watch it right now. You know, if you're really busy, you're like, I just want to hang out with my family right now, or I'm on vacation. You don't have to watch it right now, but you do have to get registered. Once you're registered, you can watch it anytime you'd like to, from the comfort of your home, in your PJs, or in your swimsuit, whatever floats your boat. But we want to make sure you know that the masterclass registration does close Thursday. We close registration at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which is 4 o'clock Pacific time. So today is really special. First of all, make sure you get in the comments. Let us know what grade level you're teaching. The masterclass is perfect for grades 2 through 5. So I'd love to hear what grade level you teach. And today is extra special because I have several Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass alumni, other teachers just like you, who are joining me today just to chat with you a little bit about what writing was like in their classroom and why they purchased the masterclass and some of their aha moments, because I know as you're trying to make this decision, you want to know, hey, is this actually going to work? And so I thought, well, the best way to answer that question is to bring on some of my alumni. So I want you to remember that it's kind of nerve-wracking to go live on video in front of people like this. And so definitely get in the comments and root my alumni on, because they're super brave. They're so amazing to agree to do this for me. So definitely get in the comments, root them on. If you have questions at all about the masterclass or questions specifically for one of my alumni, put those in the comments and we'll make sure and get as many of them asked as possible. So I'm hoping this is going to work. Of course, you have to be patient with us with technology all around, but my first guest is Nicole, and I'm super excited to chat with Nicole because I have been sharing her story. She has such a beautiful story, and I've been sharing her story, and I told my team I really want to chat with Nicole. She had such amazing results this past year, but Nicole just had a baby, and my team says, I don't know if Nicole is going to be able to come and chat with you because she has a new baby. Well, Nicole agreed, but she says, we got to be quick because she's got the baby. And so I want to bring Nicole on so that you can meet her and hear her story. So I'm hoping this will work, Nicole. I don't see your video there, but let's see here. Nicole, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Yeah, the video is being weird because it's technology and it's 2020, so that's life.
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Technology in 2020, I think all our teachers can relate to this. Yes. I wish that everyone could see your beautiful face, but I'm so glad that we can hear you. Okay, I'm so glad we can hear you. Nicole, what grade level do you teach?
I teach 4th grade.
4th grade. And how long have you been teaching?
I love it. This will be when I go back in October, it will be my 15th year of teaching. So I've been in it for a minute.
She's been in it for a minute. My teenagers would say you've been in it for a hot minute.
Oh, hot minute.
You got to get the slang down.
Exactly.
How is the new baby?
He's amazing. He's like in a state of almost awakeness right now, so he's a little grumpy, but he's okay. I really wish the video were playing. Like I'm on a separate computer now trying to get to go, so hopefully you get to see his little face because he's adorable.
All right, we're hoping for that. So Nicole, I want you, when did you purchase the Masterclass? Was it in 2019? Was it 2 years ago?
I got it in 2019, 2 years ago, when you first came out with the Masterclass, and it was like the best decision I think I've ever made as a teacher.
Oh, I love that. Can you think back to before you had the master class and tell us a little bit about what writing was like in your classroom prior to the master class? How were you teaching writing? What were your students saying and thinking?
Before the Masterclass, writing was the dreaded time of day. When you make a schedule, it's like, okay, let's see, let's put this after lunch at the end of the day. Let's like keep it after recess so that we can just stay outside for a little longer and not have to focus on writing too much. It's like, oh well, we don't have enough time for writing today. It was a lot. It was tears from the kids. It was tears from me. It was super frustrating. You had some kids who were writing, multiple stories every single day, and you had other kids who you couldn't get to write one sentence. It was a hot mess. It was a hot mess expressed in the classroom.
Hey, it sounds like you're telling my story, Nicole. Does anyone else feel like Nicole is pretty much describing your classroom where you put writing at the end? Maybe you won't have time, maybe recess, maybe you can stay at recess longer. The kids don't like it, and the ability levels are all over the place. You got kids writing chapter books and kids who won't write a sentence. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your students' ability levels then before the master class. How were they doing as far as growth in writing?
It was really hard because we used a program that we shan't be naming. And it was really hard to assess because it was very subjective. Some of the writing I thought was really great, but then I would give it to our literary person, and she was like, actually, I would not grade it that high. And I would say growth was really minimal because it was boring and no one enjoyed it. I didn't like it. And it wasn't a subject that I feel like my kids got adequate growth on because they weren't connected to it as much as they were when I used your program. I won't get into that because I have a lot to say about your program and how much I love it. But before that, it was just writing was something to do, and it wasn't anything where they really felt confident enough, and I didn't feel confident enough teaching it to them to really make a big of a difference. So.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. And I think a lot of teachers listening can relate to having a curriculum that they didn't feel like was actually helping, wasn't a support to them, and then not feeling confident. That's really tough. So I don't even know if you can remember this because it's been 2 years, but when you heard about the masterclass, did you purchase right away or did you have some doubts? Did you have to think it through for a little while?
I definitely thought about it for a minute, and I was like, okay, I know writing has always been that subject that I'm like, I know I need the most training in it, but I don't know if I want to put enough time into it. And I said, you know what? If I want to be the best educator I can be, I need to do this for myself, not only for the students, but for myself, because I wanted to develop more confidence in myself as a teacher and as a teacher of writing. So for me, I definitely thought about it. I slept on it for a few days, and I was like, seeing the countdown go down and down. I was like, oh God, I don't know. But then when I got it, it was, like I said, it was literally the best decision I made. And I did it for 2 years in a row. So that goes for saying, like, it's such a great program.
All right. So tell us, what kind of aha moments, what was like your biggest lesson you learned when you took the master class?
I think my biggest aha moment was that all kids can love writing. Doesn't matter who they are, doesn't matter what writing skills they bring to the table. All kids can love writing. I think the first year I used the program, the kids that I had were already really enthusiastic about learning anyway, but these kids were literally begging me, can I keep writing for another 5 minutes? Can I keep writing for another 10 minutes? I'm like, but guys, we have recess. They're like, I don't care. I want to keep going anyway. So for me, that was like a huge, like, my teacher heart was very happy when I heard that.
I love this. I love when
Yeah.
kids say, can I please keep writing? How many
Yeah.
of you would love to have your students saying that instead of do we have to? It's huge. And then what about their ability levels? After you started using the strategies you learned in the masterclass, did you see more growth with your students?
Absolutely. I saw kids actually correcting each other and saying, "Oh, you didn't indent your paragraph. Oh, you don't have a strong lead. Oh, I think you should have more detail here. Oh, is this a dialogue? Don't you think you need more periods here?" And oh, it was just really funny because they were critiquing each other. They were critiquing themselves. It was really good because they took more ownership of their writing. And I feel like when I had them work in partners and in small groups, they were able to really do a bit of my job where I gave them that responsibility and they took it wholeheartedly. I mean, honestly, Jamie, like telling them they could write with whatever they wanted was huge in my class. That was huge. Like they're like, wait, I can write in pen. I can write in different color pen every single day. What? Like they love that. They love the fact that I gave them the flexibility to write wherever they wanted. I would teach the mini lesson. We would go over the mentor text. And I would send them off and I would have my small group and the other kids, like there was one kid who preferred to write under my desk every day. That was her spot. And I mean, they would literally say, okay, I have to have my pillow this certain angle when I write and da da da. Like it was really cute. I feel like the kids loved it because they felt more ownership of it. And, I'm just like, I was thinking about what I was going to say for this interview today. And I think like I taught third grade for 8 years before I taught fourth grade. And I feel like if I had this program when I taught third grade, I feel like that's like the sweet spot right there where kids who are in third grade, like they're still like super bubbly, super excited about writing, but they're not so set in their ways of either loving it or hating it. Whereas in fourth grade, they either come in with this, I love writing, I don't like writing so much, and I don't care what you say, I'm not going to write anything. But third grade is like just such a sweet spot where you can get them, and the skills that you have in this program are like amazing. And I feel like that's when you really get them as writers, so that when they get to fourth grade, they're like ready to go. So not saying that in fourth grade that it can't happen, because it definitely does happen. And I've had kids go from doing the pre-test where one of my students got like an 8 out of 20. And at the end of the year, she got a 15, 16 out of 20. Like, that's incredible.
That is incredible. That is amazing. Yeah, I was just reading some of your rubric scores. You had a student go from 8 out of 20 to 15 out of 20. Another went from 10 to 19. They went from complaining to not wanting to stop writing. I mean, that's incredible growth. So congratulations, Nicole, on amazing work you clearly were doing in that classroom.
But you know what? The thing about it is, it was fun for me. I loved it. And when I think it goes without saying that when you bring excitement into something that you teach, the kids are excited about it. And I mean, I was the sage on the stage for writing. Like I was like, I'm going to be your biggest writing cheerleader, guys. Like, you can do this. I believe in you. And just really getting them pumped about writing. And I think when I would say, oh, I remember you're writing a story about a kid who, is building a fort, and you're writing a story about a girl who goes off to boarding school, and just knowing what every single person is doing was huge for me, because before writing class, I wouldn't get to talk to kids for weeks, because it's like I get stuck with one kid or two kids every day. But with writing class, like I was able to talk to every single child every week. And that was huge for me. And the small groups and being able to touch base with every single child and know exactly where they are. So between Monday and Friday, I know where everybody is. Everyone has made growth, and everyone feels good about what they produced that week.
I love that, Nicole. We had someone asking, how do you help? You've got thriving writers and you've got writers who are struggling. And I think you just kind of hit on it, is that a lot of times in a traditional writing lesson, we spend all our time with the student who is struggling And then we don't have nearly enough time to touch base with some of our other students who aren't raising their hand, who seem to be doing well. And then those writers who are on and above level aren't making the deep growth that we want them to make as well. But yeah, if you can meet with your students once per week, which we help you do in the masterclass, you get to help all of your students to grow. And that is so exciting.
Exactly. And I love the small group component because I could just grab kids that that are struggling with the same skill. And it turned out where they each started to help each other. Like, hey, if we were talking about leads and one student just was having trouble with it, another one would be able to jump in and say, hey, why don't you try this on? Why don't you try that on? And I mean, just the camaraderie that comes out of this program, the collaboration that comes out of it, the fact that kids are now loving what they're writing. And, if they get frustrated, they not only have me to lean on, but they've got kids in their group that they can lean on. And, the groups are not static. I change them every single week. Sometimes I would meet with some kids a couple of times a week based on what skills they needed. And it was just really good because I could see them and they could see that I was seeing each group, and they were very respectful of the fact that when I'm with a group, they would work independently. And if I had time, I could pull another group. And I feel like it helped me plan out my writing time better, using every single minute of writing to do something that would help them with their final project or their final product. The publishing parties were always a hit. We took it a bit further in my class where we actually created small books. And what we did is have each child create their books, and then we would have them have like a publishing party where we would walk around and each kid would sit with somebody else's story and write comments, not like, oh, this is a good job, but they had to write, what did you actually enjoy about their story? So it turned into just something that they loved and they really got into. And it was just such a positive experience.
I love that. I love that they have so much more independence. Now, you had a writing curriculum. Did you continue to use the writing curriculum after the master class? Were you able to integrate the two, or did you use something different after the master class?
So after the master class in 2019, I was able to use the Not So Wimpy curriculum. And then last year, I used it for realistic fiction in the beginning of the year. And then we pretty much got inundated with things from our district using the standard curriculum that shan't be named. And we were pretty much like strong-armed into using that. So it really was a bummer because like this was a group of kids that I really wanted to just get into masterclass stuff and really use it with them. But, they're like, well, it's 2020, all the stuff is already made, da, 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 da. It was boring. I'm not going to lie. It was like I was getting the flashbacks from pre-masterclass times. And writing was tough this year because we didn't use it. And, I missed the structure. I missed the mentor text. I missed the anchor charts. Like I missed all the good things that come with this program. So, I at least I got one unit out of them. I got one unit to use last year. But this next year when I go in, I'm gonna go rogue. I don't care. I'm going rogue.
I love it. I love it. A lot of teachers do incorporate their own curriculum that they're required to use from their district and still use masterclass strategies. In the masterclass, we really teach how to teach writing. And then after that, you can layer in your own curriculum if you want. But if you're not in love with your curriculum or your district isn't mandating you use a curriculum, we do have a curriculum of our own that we're pretty proud of. And that is what Nicole is talking about. So Nicole, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you're really busy with baby Jace and that it is summer. So thank you for taking some time to chat with us. I know my audience appreciates your being here. Is there anything else you would tell somebody who's thinking about joining the masterclass this year?
I would say just do it. Honestly, it will change your life. It is amazing. If you're someone who loves structure and loves to just kind of have something ready, available, you just print. It's kind of like you set it and forget it. You just kind of do it. And it's so easy to follow. The kids will love it. You will see your kids grow so much. Just do it. Just do it. Like if you're having second thoughts, and I'm someone who ruminates over something until the very last minute, just do it. Just do it. It's going to change your life.
Thank you so much, Nicole. I know everyone really appreciated hearing your story. Enjoy your summer. Enjoy the baby.
Thank you. I'll send you pictures.
All right. I will like that. All right.
All
Let's
right.
see if I
Take
can.
care.
Bye. Oops. Let's see. I'm still trying to figure all the things out here. Okay. There we go. And then I did something. Okay. My only problem now, here we go. I figured it out. Whew. All right. So I'm so excited Nicole could tell you about her students' growth, because those numbers going from like 9 to 16 on a rubric, 8 to 16, that is massive growth. It's more than a year's worth of growth. And I can't wait for your students to experience this growth. And I love that the Not So Be Writing Masterclass, it just simplifies things for the teacher. So if teaching writing has kind of felt a little bit overwhelming, and you have students who are not excited about writing and you're not excited about writing, then the masterclass is perfect for you. You're joining the right group of people, because in the masterclass, we're going to take you from feeling a little bit overwhelmed to feeling confident. We're going to take your students from feeling like they aren't good writers or reluctant writers to feeling like they are confident writers who can write entire 5-paragraph essays like Nicole's students were writing. So if you are ready to join us, we're excited to welcome you. The address to get signed up is notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. And again, registration closes Thursday, but it is self-paced. So once you join, you have lifetime access and you can take it at your own pace. Watch the lessons whenever it works for you. So I'm really excited to welcome our next guest. Our next guest is super special, someone I've actually gotten to even meet because of the masterclass. I am going to be bringing Amber on here in a second, and she also joined the masterclass 2 years ago, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. So let's bring you on, Amber.
Hi, Jamie. Good
How
morning.
are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good.
So I'm super excited we finally get to chat again. I feel like I
Right?
see you all the time on Facebook, but now
Yeah.
you're here.
Yes, in person.
So when you joined the masterclass, you were a pretty new teacher. We have a lot of teachers who ask, I'm pretty new, should I even take this? But you jumped right in when you were a brand new teacher.
Yes, I was one of those teachers who was hired very last minute before school started. They told me 3rd grade, and I just scrambled to find anything I could because I'm a planner. I needed to know what was going to happen. I was still in my college classes, and I did not exactly feel 100% confident to have my own classroom, but at the same time, I really, really wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
I had been subbing for so long, and that experience was great, but it just showed me I definitely wanted my own classroom. So I was all over TPT and the Facebook groups and whatnot, and I stumbled across a few of your resources, and it just made everything so easy. Everything was already planned for me. And once I jumped into my own classroom, I had enough to deal with classroom management and learning the ropes of my school, and your curriculum and the masterclass just made everything so much easier for me. It motivated me. It made me confident when deep down inside I was not confident for many of the other subjects I was teaching. So I was one of those teachers who had to always watch the math videos before I taught my lesson, because Common Core was so new to me as a new teacher that I didn't learn it that way. So your masterclass provided the videos for writing. So I was deeply, deeply thankful to be able to watch those videos and look at the curriculum, and it helped so much.
So did you use the masterclass strategies in your very first year of teaching?
Yes, I did.
I mean, that is so awesome, because so many teachers listening have had to teach with nothing or teach with a curriculum that they weren't trained to use, and they had to go through the overwhelm before they came to finding something. I love that you got started right from the beginning with getting training and just walking in more confident. That is an awesome opportunity.
It happened at the perfect time. I didn't know what my district had in store for me. I work for a really great district who does wonderful PD, and they train us like crazy. But honestly, once I did the masterclass, I didn't want to go with what they were recommending. It's awesome for my coworkers who have already been using it for a while, but for me, using the masterclass strategies from the beginning, everything just clicked for me and my students. So I just keep on going.
Tell me about your students. How do they feel about writing?
They come in very reluctant, especially this past year with everything. We were pretty much virtual the entire year. And it was hard because I faced a lot of distractions in their home. And those students who actually, those six, I had my key six, they paid attention, they did their work. I could see so much growth from those six. And then the previous year, my first year in person, oh, the kids, I was shocked when I mean, nothing really prepares you for seeing the levels your students are as a first year teacher. I was like, oh my goodness, I have pretty much preschool all the way to sixth grade in my classroom. So I was kind of shocked and taken aback, but your strategies and working with them and conferencing with them and working with them one-on-one, giving them the ability to choose what they write, where they write, what they write with, they just went so far in our writing time. It was amazing to see. I really had hoped my district would do district writing this year and state testing, but we didn't, which I guess is good in some ways, but I really wanted to see their growth.
I hear you. When teachers start saying, I wish we had standardized tests so that I could have shown everyone, look how much my kids grew. That's something you don't hear teachers say very often, Amber.
No, it was always fun to show my teammates, look, these are what my students produced, and then we would turn and share everybody's, and I was like, oh, you guys, you got to try this, but they're veteran teachers, which I love and respect, but they're stuck in their ways, and I appreciate that, and I respect it. It works for them, but I found something that works a little better for our students.
Well, I'm glad to hear how well it is working for you and your students. Was there a certain lesson or a certain strategy that you learned in the masterclass that was really your favorite, the one that stuck with you the most?
I think it would be a tie. It would be between the mini lessons, keeping everything short and concise and having the students practice directly after the lesson, and then giving the students choice. I don't see students being offered choices very much anymore. So the choice of where to write, what to use to write was huge. Like Nicole said, in my classroom, oh my goodness, the students, they felt like they won the lottery when they got to go up to the writing counter and just pick whatever utensil they wanted to use for the day. It was so amazing to see them smile and they got right to work. And I just think giving them the choice was key. I mean, so many of my subbing jobs, I would see where all the students had to write about Abraham Lincoln, or everyone was writing about the same topic. And as a teacher, just grading some of those, I was like, oh, I'm bored out of my mind. And I know that the kids must be that way too, but giving them a chance to pick something that they're passionate about, something they already think they're pros at knowing. Like I had one little guy, he hated writing, but he picked his favorite video game, and he researched it and he wrote about it. And he taught me how to play it just by reading his essay. So I was just giving them that choice. It really helps take them out of their shell and get them interested.
Yeah, and yet we know we should offer choice, but it can be a little bit scary to offer choice. I know teachers are like, but what if they write about video games? But I love that your student wrote about a video game, but you just saw him get super excited about writing. And then when your students get super excited, you start to see the growth in their actual scores on the rubric or on the test. That's that's proof that choice leads to growth.
It is. It's true. I mean, giving them the opportunity to choose what to write about, whether it was their narrative, their informative, or their opinion, I really saw that giving them a choice really opened up their writing ability and skills, and their stamina. Their stamina definitely grew.
And now, Amber, you teach in a Title I school. You have ELL learners, a very diverse group of students. Do you feel that the Masterclass helps all of your students? Does it help certain students more than others? What was your experience there?
I would have to say it helped all of my students. I mean, I do have such a broad range of students and abilities and their skill levels, but I saw growth in all of my students, particularly the year when we were in seat in school. Obviously, last year there were challenges I couldn't control, but it just with the motivation and them during conferencing, they could see that you were really interested in their stories. So they were excited to come meet with me and let me hear their newest version or what they added. And they loved the share time at the end of the day. And it was super exciting to see all of my students. I even had, I had a little girl who was a selective mute, and she couldn't really share with us too much what she wrote, but she had a little friend that sat next to her that was her little interpreter, and she would even let her share her writing. And to see her growth, where, at the end, she was excited. She's like, here's my story. Can you read it? She wouldn't say that to us, but her little interpreter knew exactly what was going on. But she was so excited to get to share that. So I seen growth in all of my students. Honestly, it was amazing, and I'm so excited. Fingers crossed we're back in seat this year, because I missed that. I missed that this past year, and I really hope we get to do that this year.
I know. I hope that for you too, because obviously teaching your students in person is so very special. And as a new teacher, to have gone through what you went through last year, I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been.
Yeah, it was pretty rough, not gonna lie. But
I think a lot of teachers here could relate and say, yep, we hear you.
Yeah, I just kept going. I had those 6 kiddos who were there no matter what, always did their work. So that was what kept me going. So it's those kids that make it special.
I love that, Amber. So what would you tell somebody who is thinking about joining the Masterclass, but maybe is a little bit nervous about whether it's the right program for them?
Honestly, give it a try. They have nothing to lose. Taking this has been one of the best decisions I've taken for PD. I mean, my district's great when it comes to PD, but everything's super short. This is so broad and all-encompassing when it comes to writing. And I can watch it whenever I want. I have the app on my phone. I was at the river last week and kind of zoned out while the kids played with my husband, watched another module. And it's so wonderful. Even the strategies, if you're not 100% sold on it, you can use these strategies in other subjects, building stamina and offering choice. I've used them in math and science and social studies, reading. Oh my goodness, I use it everywhere in my classroom. My classroom is like a not so wimpy classroom right now, but it's just wonderful. It's so motivating. I mean, I watch one of these modules and I'm like, okay, I know it's only the end of June, but I'm ready to go teach writing now. I want to go teach writing.
Oh, I love that. I love that when you watch the videos, it makes you excited to teach. We see that a lot. Amber's in our course group. We have a Facebook group that you get to join when you join the Masterclass, and Amber's in there. And you've seen people say, okay, I'm only on module 2, but I'm already so excited to teach writing. So it makes me super excited to hear that. And I love that you said you use these strategies in other subjects, because I'm going to tell you, that's how I taught myself to be a better writing teacher, was I started to look at, what am I doing that's working in writing or in reading, and what am I doing that's working well in math? And I started to try those same strategies in writing and realized, okay, we don't have to reinvent the entire wheel here. Yes, writing is a little bit subjective, which is challenging, but there's so many great strategies that we know as educators that we can bring into our writing workshop. So I'm glad that you're seeing so many different ways that you can take these strategies to other subjects in your classroom.
Yeah, it just makes everything run so much smoother and so cohesive, and the students know exactly what to expect, and it's just, I love it. It's awesome.
I love routine. When students know what to expect, that makes it easier for you to lesson plan and less time wasted in the classroom, plus confidence for our students. So
yes.
Well, thank you, Amber, for hopping in here today. It means so much to us. I know that everyone watching really enjoys hearing your story, and we're rooting for you to have in-person students this year.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. I love hearing these stories from Masterclass alumni. So I hope you are too. Let me know. Are you guys loving these stories? We have so many Masterclass alumni. At this point, we have over 9,000 teachers who have signed up for the Masterclass. And we love to hear their stories and just learn how they're using the Masterclass in their classroom. And so I saw a question here about technology. Can you use the strategies from the Masterclass with technology? And yes, of course, lots of teachers in our classroom are one-to-one. Jenny says she has someone who's going to need to use a Chromebook. All of the strategies you could certainly use with a classroom that has technology. I love to have students draft in writing, but then after that, it's awesome if you have technology. If you have a student who needs to use technology for for other reasons, then you just start off with technology. Absolutely, you can do that. And then Amber mentioned something about the app. And so Linda was asking, what's the app about? Our course is hosted on a website, and you can log in on your computer or your iPad or whatever device you'd like. But they also have an app, and you can download that. So it's easier for you to listen to lessons while you're off taking a walk, or like Amber, who was out at the river with her family and decided to take a break and listen to a lesson. You can do it whenever or wherever you are. So we would love to welcome you into the masterclass. If you are ready to join us, head over to notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. Remember, registration closes Thursday. Okay, we're moving on here. I've got so many amazing alumni to share with you today. This is super exciting. My next guest is Christina, and Christina is a 3rd and 4th grade teacher and one of our alumni. Can't wait for you to hear her story. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you in, Christina. I'm getting better at all this tech. There's a lot of buttons to push. Hey!
Good morning. How are you?
Excellent. How are you? It looks like you're at school.
Well, this was my virtual classroom. I'm sitting at my dining room table, and I've got my whiteboard behind me just in case. So.
Wow. Teachers got extremely creative this past year, because I would have thought you were in your classroom with your whiteboard in your dining room.
You're so sweet.
All right. So you teach 3rd and 4th, or have you gone back and forth between them, or do you have a mixed class?
Yeah. So last year was my first year teaching, and I started in 3rd grade. And then I wound up looping with my kids this year into 4th grade. So that's where that kind of combo goes.
Perfect.
3rd and 4th. So I've done both.
Excellent. Where are you from?
Las Vegas. I live in Las Vegas, and I teach in Henderson, so not too far.
Yeah, and it's super hot there too, just like it is here, huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when did you join us in the master class? Was that last year or 2 years ago?
I joined you in the master class 2 years ago. That was my first master class over the summer. I knew I was coming into a new school, into a new position, and I said, let's dive in. Let's just jump in. And then I actually retook the class again the December of that year. So I've revisited it about 4 times over the past 2 years.
Yeah, that's something I wanted in the masterclass. If you go to like a professional development conference, which I love to go to, I've been to several, including I like to go to them to go in Vegas too. But you go to the conference and you hear the speaker and you get really motivated and you take notes. But when you get home, if you're struggling with something, when you actually go to implement it, you can't watch the session again or ask the speaker again. So I love that you can go back to these lessons because you have lifetime access. So you can watch it now, you could watch it later, you can review certain modules. That's what Amber was saying right before you, that she was reviewing a module just this summer.
Absolutely. And you guys have such great content within the modules, and there's so much to kind of unpack. So I pulled out the pieces that worked for me as I was implementing it as a new teacher. And then the things that worked, I mastered them, and then I went ahead and I picked out something else that I wanted to really master and work towards throughout the second half of the year. So
that is so smart. That is so smart. Instead of getting overwhelmed by everything all at once, you picked to just work on a certain area, master it, and then continue. I mean, isn't that how we teach our students too? But we don't give ourselves enough of a break to allow it to do that, just to pick a little part, get better at it. I love it. Now, when you saw the masterclass, if you can remember, I know it was 2 years ago, but when you saw the masterclass, did you buy right away, or did you kind of hem and haw and have to really think about it for a while?
I didn't have to think about it for a split second. I was really like all in. I'm jumping, feet first, head first, body flop, like the whole thing. I had been following your page on Instagram. I had been following through Facebook, through a lot of different resources. And I knew that this was going to be the class that was going to guide me where I wanted to be as a writing teacher. Because I didn't want to be the teacher that hated writing. I didn't want to be the teacher that had kids that said, I can't do this. This isn't good for me. I don't like it. I wanted to avoid all of those things. So I said, let's do it. Masterclass, I'm in. It was a no-brainer.
I love that. I love it. And so you were doing the masterclass strategies then your first year of teaching?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love this because the masterclass, I often tell people, this is the course I wish I could have taken in college when I was getting my teaching degree, but it just wasn't, there wasn't an option for this course. And the fact that you got to take it before you got overwhelmed with trying to teach writing, I am so excited for you. I wish I had that opportunity.
Well, and I tell all of my peers, and whenever I'm talking about writing or I'm talking about Masterclass, I always say, these are the kinds of things, mini lessons, writing workshop. That's why so many teachers are like, writing is terrible. It's my least favorite. I don't know how to do it. Because we didn't get this in college.
Yes. We were missing the tools in our toolbox.
Yes.
And then we were stuck in the classroom and told, well, make sure they make the growth. And that is, I mean, we take that to heart as teachers. Yeah. We want all our students to make that growth, but without the tools in the toolbox, it's so hard for us to do it on our own. So I'm so glad you found the Masterclass. So you didn't have students before the Masterclass. Let's talk about your students. Sure. What do they think about writing? What kind of reaction are they having to these strategies you're using in the classroom?
So my first year when I taught third grade, I'll be honest, I still had no idea what I was doing. And
you were a first-year teacher. There's a lot coming at you.
I had no idea what I was doing. I had a curriculum that I was supposed to follow, and then I was trying to implement some of the strategies. So it was really kind of a circus. It wasn't beautiful. However, I will tell you this. After moving up with my kids and then teaching virtually for about 75% of the year, if this is not a testament to the Writing Masterclass, my students from August until the end of February, we were all online and we implemented 3 writing units and we worked through the pacing calendar that Jamie you provided. And my kids were writing 5-6 paragraphs with quality content and brilliant ideas that I was able to actually see through type. It was like, I didn't know where these kids came from. It was unbelievable. It was the vocabulary, the language, all of the parts together. We still have those kids that struggle and say, I can't come up with something. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to do with this. But we worked through it piece by piece, day by day, lesson by lesson. And by the end, when it was time to publish their writing, it was as if they've been doing this all their lives.
That's
it was
awesome.
Unbelievable. And I never actually got to be in a classroom with the students. Mm-hmm. It was all digital. So who knows how to teach writing digitally?
Yeah, I am so impressed. I am so impressed with what you're saying. They made all this growth while you were virtual. That is a real testament. And writing 5 or 6 paragraphs, that's amazing. But you were breaking it down into little chunks. So when they felt a little overwhelmed that they didn't know what to write about, they only had to do just a little something each day, which that builds that confidence for your writers. So congratulations. You were obviously doing something amazing in this virtual classroom in your dining room.
It worked.
So when you took the master class, I know you've gone back a few different times, but what would you say is probably your favorite lesson, the one that maybe made the most impact for you?
When I first started, and the ones that I keep going back to, it always seems to be the mini lesson, really honing in on the teaching point of that lesson. How am I going to drive this one home? And the sharing module is, and I think that's where maybe I made the most impact, or my students made the most impact. For all the virtual teachers out there, remember, we were trying to put everybody on mute because you had background noise and talking over each other, and there were dogs in the background or whatever was happening, right? And this was like a really huge moment for them to share. And we built this community for them to say, this was my topic sentence, or this was the big idea that I'm most excited to write about, or this was my conclusion with my big hit at the end. And they were so supportive and so incredibly proud of one another. They had the opportunity to teach one another. So the mini lesson and the sharing is where I found the most power as an instructor, but also as a facilitator. The roles kind of shifted, and you got to see your students really take responsibility and accountability for their work that they were stoked and pumped about. So that was fun.
Wow, that is awesome. Obviously, you have built confidence that they're willing to not only write, but share and be able to give feedback to their peers. that's deep growth. That's not just a couple of points on a rubric, but it's deep growth. So congratulations. And all right, let's see what have, I've got all your stories here, and I don't want to miss something really important here. I have a few things that you said. You said the masterclass is so thorough and organized. I love the emphasis on creativity and imagination. Did you take the course then on your computer? Did you use the app? Were you one who binge watched, or you one who watched over time?
So the first time I took it, I did it on the computer, and I'm also that type of personality. I printed out the workbook and I previewed it before I went and I took the courses, and I wrote all the notes down.
Yeah, that's how I do courses too.
Right. So I binge watched it the first time, and then I think you had offered it in July. I want to say it was like offered in July in the summer, and then we started in August, and then I went ahead and I started watching a couple of the modules later on. But what I did find is that, yes, it is so incredibly organized and thorough. It was easy to move through. If you're one of those people, have you ever read a book and you're reading, but your mind is like going somewhere else? You have to go back and reread. I was able to do that with the class, right? I would just pause it and say, oh, I do not know what she said. And I went right back and I rewinded a couple of minutes. Oh, okay, now I get it. So it was easy. And I must say, Jamie, listening to your voice is not painful at all. You have such a beautiful voice, so it made it so easy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I went ahead and made the lessons, the videos really short, because I have a kind of short attention span. And so I thought if I made the videos really short, then you can decide if you want to watch one video today, or maybe you want to watch 4 or 5. But that way you have, it's like when you read a book and the chapters are short. I love that because I feel super accomplished, because I'm like, I read 5 chapters today. I mean, it was only 10 pages, but it was 5 chapters. I wanted you to feel that accomplishment too in the masterclass. So yeah, I love how organized it is. And the fact that you can just go back to one module. You don't have to rewatch the whole course if you don't need to. If you're like, you know what, my conferencing could use some improvement this year, I'm going to go back and watch the conferencing module again and see if I can glean some new ideas this year. So I absolutely love that. There's some questions about differentiation. In your classroom, did you have a lot of different levels of student writers? I mean, I think we all do, but I always get a teacher who says, I'm not sure if the masterclass will work for me because I have struggling writers and I have writers who are above level. Did you have that same experience?
I did. They were all over the place. I had all kinds of different leveled writers, which was really actually awesome. It was an opportunity, I felt, instead of a struggle or an obstacle. I like to look at those that were really thriving, the ability to extend the lessons and push them through the material, or the option to give them another story to write, something to kind of keep them moving, was really powerful. And I could see the freedom within that with them. So that was cool. And those struggling writers, the opportunity within the masterclass to teach students to write about what they know and what they love. Who can't do that? We can all do that. So it gave them this sense of ability to say, oh, I know about Fortnite and I'm really good at that. Like, what an intrinsic expression. These kids can write about Fortnite. They can write about, I don't know, Minecraft.
I don't know all the games anymore.
Whatever they do, they just know. So it was really cool to see them say, oh, I know this. I can write about it. And even though their writing may not have been exactly what we were looking for, they still had the opportunities to go back and say, oh, I needed to capitalize this, or I needed to put quotation marks here because this character is talking. So maybe it wasn't perfect, but the progress and the growth was there. And still there was those big, firework moments where they're like, I wrote this. Isn't that what we're looking for? We're looking for, I wrote this. My teacher's talking about something great I did. So it was super cool. Yeah.
I can just see why your students love being in your classroom. I mean, your passion for teaching is definitely evident, but you hit on something that I probably say like 15 times in the course is growth over perfection. Mm-hmm. And we have this, I think it's part of the personality that makes us a great teacher, but can also be the part that is overwhelming, is that we want all of our students to get 20 out of 20 or 5 stars or whatever it is. And sometimes while we're aiming for that massive end number, we can lose track of how far a student has actually come. So when a student starts off with that 2 out of 20, but ends with 16 out of 20, instead of being like, but they didn't get 20 out of 20, it's like they grew more than a grade level. That is something to have a major celebration for, and a reminder that you are one stop on their educational journey. But next year, your students are going to go off to 5th grade, and hopefully the 5th grade teacher at your school is going to continue fostering this love for writing, and the student will continue to grow in their path. And so I love that you have this really good attitude about their growth, and that it's truly about growth, not perfection.
Well, I wanted to touch on that too. The freedom that I found from the masterclass as a teacher is to look for progress. We're not looking for perfection. And truthfully, when we look at writers, we pick out stories and we read books that we're like, it was just okay, right? And then somebody else may say, oh, it was the greatest story I've ever read. Writing is subjective. Mm-hmm. So we're not here to be, in my classroom, I'm not here to be the critic. I'm just here to look, did we hit kind of those teaching points? Did you get it or did you not? And where can we grow from here? So there's freedom in that as a teacher when I'm grading and when I'm reading a story that a student has published. And that's really, really cool. That's really cool for me.
I love it. Who wants to be a student in her class right now? I feel like everyone wants to sign up for Christina's class because it sounds like a great place to be. So thank you for what you're doing for students. I really do appreciate that. What would you say to somebody? As teachers, we got to really be careful about choosing our professional development because our time is super precious. Our money is super precious. What do you say to someone who's like, I'm thinking I need this, but I'm not sure if it's right for me. Should I do it?
Do it. Do it. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. There's not one thing that you won't take from this masterclass that you have either not been implementing, or there's going to be a mind shift that says, I'm about to serve my students at a next level. I truly, truly feel that way. And this is cross-curricular. Sure, this is a writing class, right? We're sitting here talking about writing. But look at the response. We do read-in responses and comprehension. Mm-hmm. We do read-in responses when we're talking about science and social studies. Not only in writing are your students going to be able to produce such outstanding and unearthly ideas and creativity in their essays, but their writing across everything else is going to blow your mind. It is the most exciting thing that I've ever done. Probably the best PD that I've ever taken that has been so impactful in my classroom. Hands down. Do it. Do it.
I love it. I love it. And I get a lot of teachers to say, but what about all that text dependent writing? And I'm like, I promise you start teaching a writing workshop with better strategies and a better foundation, and you're going to see writing growth in reading, math, science, and social studies. You will see growth all around, but it's all about starting first with a writing workshop where students have the opportunity to become confident writers. And writing can be really different in your classroom this year. And you can show students that come to you reluctant. Writing is different here. You're going to have a different experience. Yeah. Sounds like that's exactly what you've done for your students. So congratulations.
Well, and thank you to you and your team. Without you guys, it wouldn't be so exciting for me, and I wouldn't feel as good as I do and as confident as I do. So thank
awesome. You. I do have an amazing team, and you brought them up, so I've got to say something. But I do have an amazing team, and Lindsay has been taking care of our masterclass teachers for the past 2 years. We have a Facebook group where we make sure to go in there and answer every question you have about a lesson you taught or a student you want to help. And we've added to that. So now Lindsay and Mary are going to be in there helping all of our masterclass teachers because we just keep getting so much bigger. So you get support when you join this PD, which when you go to a conference after you get home, you don't have the support anymore once you leave the conference room. No more support, but we know that once you get actually teaching the lesson, you might come up with a question, or you might have a student and you're like, hey, I need a little help, come up with an idea here. And we love to do that. We like to problem solve with you to come up with a solution. And we like to celebrate your wins too. And I'm guessing that's how Lindsay met you, is some win sharing inside of our Facebook group.
Yes, yes. Lindsay is amazing. She has been so awesome through this whole process. And yeah, the support afterwards, after the masterclass, is hands down, it's undeniable. You're there to share ideas and practices that work and what doesn't work. And that's exactly what you said. It doesn't just fall off. You don't just fall off the train and it's over. You have so much extra, brain sharing, different brainstorming opportunities with other people using the class. Utilize it. It's free. It's helpful.
Yep, the Facebook group is a bonus that we offer everyone who joins the masterclass. So you've got a fan here. Sarah's here, and she said that you were her son's teacher last year, and you did an amazing job implementing this with your students. So you that's amazing when parents are noticing what you're doing. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has seen it, her son, if I can share one last story, her son was in my class last year, and he, as sweet as he was one of those struggling writers that said, I don't know what to do with this. I hear what you're saying, but it's all gibberish. I don't understand. And he would turtle. He was my turtle student that was like, I don't know how to put any ideas out, until we worked through it. And we had, we talked about growth mindset, and we talked about starting small and shifting. And then by the end of the year, I watched this little boy take his SBAC test. And he was like, I was like, what happened? Confident, strong, the content was good. And, SBAC, you're not writing about anything that you really want to write about. So it just came through with him. It was unbelievable. But yeah, I know.
I love that story, because we all have a few of those students who really are reluctant, who don't see themselves as writers, and they don't even want to get started. But the fact that you were able to help him to go from that feeling to being so incredibly successful at the end of the year. I think you said he wrote a 5-paragraph essay, which, every teacher's like, I would love a brilliant 5-paragraph essay from a reluctant writer. So that I love sharing that story. Thank you that you brought it up again, because we need to hear it. So thank you so much for joining us this morning and taking some time out of your summer. I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. I hope everybody takes the masterclass. It's amazing. Bye, Jamie.
Thank you. Bye. All right. I just love that story about her student who went from being so incredibly reluctant to writing this sensational 5-paragraph essay for standardized testing. I don't know about you, but that's the kind of results we really dream about as teachers. And the fact that she saw that kind of growth with her students, and look how excited she is. When I was a newer teacher, I wasn't that excited about writing at all. And so to see her and Amber be relatively new in their teaching careers and feel that good about writing, to me, that is just, that's what I want for all my teachers in the masterclass, new or veteran. And so if you're ready to join us, we'd be so excited to welcome you. You can head over now to wimpyteacher.com/yes to get yourself registered. This is an online professional development program for teachers in grades 2 through 5 who want to be confident writing teachers. We're going to help you to simplify the entire process so that you feel really good about your writing instruction, and so that your students make continuous growth. And that's what we really want. So speaking of veteran teachers, I'm pretty excited for you guys to meet our next guest, a friend of mine who's now a friend because we've been, because of the masterclass, Darcy. I'm going to bring her on here in a moment. But I love Darcy's story. We've had a few newer teachers, but now I love to hear from a teacher who's been teaching for a while. And her experience with writing is unique and different than the stories you've already heard. So let's go ahead and bring Darcy on here. Push a few buttons. And hi, Darcy.
Hi, Jamie.
It's so good to see you.
You too. It's been a while.
It has. I got to meet Darcy right before everything shut down for COVID. So I'm glad we actually got to have our retreat, because we had no idea what was about to happen. But it feels like it's been an awfully long time since we've gotten to chat, and this is a good opportunity.
Yes.
So Darcy, I was telling everyone that you are not a brand new teacher. We've talked to a few teachers who've taught for just a couple of years and newer in their journey. How long have you been teaching?
I will start year 34 next year.
Well, congrats. That is massive. Now, tell me a little bit about the grade levels you've taught, because you haven't always taught elementary.
No. I was actually a 7th and 8th grade language arts teacher for over 20 years. I started my journey in teaching in 4th grade, and then was hired on to teach 7th and 8th grade. And so I taught for many years, just, teaching writing to 7th and 8th graders. And then about 11 years ago, went back to 4th grade and, thoroughly enjoy that age level, and the fact that they just love to learn. But where I had my struggle also was I was so used to teaching 7th and 8th graders how to write. It was disheartening to me to find 4th graders who hated it so much. And so I really struggled with that, and actually struggled through it for probably almost 6 years before I actually stumbled onto your course. And every year what happens is we sit down at the end of the year, my team, and we go through our scores, and we look at where are our weaknesses and where are our strengths. And one of them obviously was our writing. And so I said to my team, I said, well, how about if I'll go home and I'll do some digging and let me see if I can't develop something that is going to help us with these writing scores. And I just happened to stumble across your masterclass, and I was like, all right. And then I was like, $97, that's nothing. I'll pay $97 to, do something with writing. And the more I watched and the more I went through the modules, I was like, this is exactly what we need. This is what we need to do. And so I was one of those that then went that summer, I met with my principal and just shared everything that I'd learned and said, I'm so excited to teach writing this year. And so that's kind of where we started. And then I was disappointed because we didn't get to do SBA, last year. And everybody kept looking at me like I was nuts. And I said, no, I want to see. I know my kids are going to rock the writing, and now we're not even going to take it. So, it's been a wonderful journey the last 2 years, and I've totally enjoyed it. We were lucky enough to be able to go back in person. We did hybrid this last year, and so was able to finally get through all 4 of the writing units, and my kids just thoroughly enjoyed it. It's one of those things where they'll come in and they'll just say, it's writing time right now, isn't it? And I'm like, yeah, because I'm just not used to that. I'm not used to kids being excited about writing. Math, reading, they all like those things. PE, of course, but writing, yeah. So, and some of the stories that they wrote about this year were just incredible. It was just, I had one that did an opinion writing about why his sister should be his maid. Yeah. So, yeah. And he had coaching through everything. At first I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. And he was able, through all of the mentor texts that we went through, he was able to come up with 3 really good reasons why he thought his sister should be his maid. It was the most, and his mother just loved it. And she's a teacher as well in our district. So she just thought it was fabulous that he was enjoying it so much, because he'd always hated it. So
hey, sometimes the key to taking a writer from hating writing to loving it is letting them have a little bit of choice in their topics. They have a little bit of fun with that, and you start to see some growth. Now, you've been teaching writing for a really long time, between your experience in the 7th and 8th grade and 4th grade, and yet you still didn't feel like you had the tools or strategies that you needed. No.
It's so different teaching 7th and 8th graders, in my opinion, than teaching 4th graders, because they're newbies. They're just like anything. They need to be coached in what are the pieces, what things do you need to have, what are good writings, what are not good writings. And it was frustrating to me because there's nothing out there. You know, there are programs out there, but that's exactly what they are. They're programs. They don't help teachers know what they need to do to teach writing. In fact, when we bought our new reading series, that was one of the reasons that they purchased it, was because it supposedly had writing built into it. And the more we looked at it, I was like, this is not writing. This is not writing. This is not how you teach kids to write. And so it was hard because fourth graders also need that, and lower end, they need that chunking. They need little pieces of it at a time. You can't just say, write an opinion, because they all look at you like, okay, what do I have to have in it? And you can't just do that all at once. And so I really like how it's been broken down into pieces. I like the little chunks that you teach a little at a time, so that kids actually understand what it is that they're supposed to have in it, but not all of it being thrown at them at once.
I was doing that, Darcy. I was trying to throw everything at my students in like a lesson. I'd give them like a laundry list. Make sure you do all this stuff, because I didn't know what I was doing. But I think a lot of teachers listening can relate to the, oh yeah, we have writing curriculum. It's what came with our reading series. And I think a lot of teachers can relate to that. And the thing is that curriculum is a support. And if it's good curriculum, it's a positive support. But we still have to be trained as teachers in the best practices and strategies, not just implement that curriculum, but to teach writing in general. And that's what I felt like I missed out on. I don't feel like I took any courses in that. And so even when I did finally get curriculum, which wasn't right away, but when I did get curriculum, I didn't know how to use it to actually help my students to grow. It was simply a lesson. Without the strategy, it didn't really work.
Right. And that's just it. You know, when clear back however many years ago it was that I went to college even, you know, you had your reading course and your math course, but there was no course that taught you how to write. You took a class maybe in writing or something like that, but there was nothing that said, this is how you should teach these kids so that they'll understand how the process goes. And, you know, it's just been really hard. And since then, we've actually implemented your writing. You know, we have it second through fifth. I'm actually sitting down with the fifth grade teachers this summer, and we're going to go through some of the modules together, because they want me there to, you know, well, help me figure out how are we supposed to do this. And I keep telling them, you're not going to need me there, but you know, you'll understand it all by yourself, but because they're so clear.
But I love that you're doing professional development together, because I think that makes professional development a little more fun when you get to do it with your friends. So I love that your team gets together. But you started telling a story. You told your principal about how you were enjoying the program, and what did your principal do? Because I think you might have the coolest principal ever.
My principal looked at me and said, where is this? What can we do? And what do we need to do so that all of the teachers, at least in our building, are doing this? And she says, and I'm going to let the other principal from our other elementary school know about it as well. And I told her, I said, well, we can get them signed up, you know, let's get them signed up, and I'll let you know when it opens, so we can sign as many of our teachers up as we possibly can. And I had no clue how many had signed up until you guys had made some kind of a comment. I was like, oh, there was that many. So there were like 25 teachers, I think, that have taken it. There's still a few here and there that are wanting to, but yeah, she signed all of us up, sent out an email right away, said, hey, you know, Darcy's taken this course. She says it's really good. How many of you would like to do this? And so all of our second, all of our third, all the other three teachers that were on my team for fourth. And then we had, you know, the other building did the same. And so yeah, we had 25 teachers that took the course. And what we all love about it is, it's kind of funny because even my team will get together and we'll go, well, I don't know, how did we do that? How is that supposed to be done? So we'll load the video up in our PLC and we'll watch it on the big screen, you know, and go, oh yeah, that's how you're supposed to do it. And so yeah, it's just such a fabulous program. I've had teachers come to me and say, you know, it's just made me feel more confident in how I'm supposed to teach writing. And so that's been that. So that was really cool. Yeah, she is a really cool principal. She's done. She comes to me, you know, and she'll say, so how's it going with writing? And I'm like, it's going so great. And of course, then we didn't do the SBA again this year in our state. And so I was like, oh, Carla, you know how I feel about that. And she goes, I know you want to take it. You're like one of the only teachers that wants this test to happen. So, you know, I said,
if you take the Masterclass, you will want standardized testing. That's what I'm hearing today. That I've never heard that before.
Yeah. I know that these kids are going to rock it. I watch our ELL students go from being very unconfident in their writing to, you know, having so much written down that they're just like, Mrs. Jensen, look at how much I wrote. Look at how much I wrote. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that awesome? And then just the dialogue that they've even started to put. We ended with fiction and the dialogue they had going back and forth. I've never had that happen before. I was just like, oh my goodness. And it was just fabulous. They get excited about how good they become at writing. And I had one little girl this year who said to me, she says, you know, Mrs. Jensen, you know what I like the most about this? And I said, what? And she says, the fact that you let us write about what we want to write about. And I said, isn't that cool? And she goes, yes, it's so much fun. She said, I get to write about, you know, when she did her fiction story, she'd had this story building in her head and she put it all down and it was fabulous. It was great. And she said, I never would have written this down otherwise. And I was like, yeah. So
that gets me. That really gets me, Darcy.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Our students, they have stories. And unfortunately, even by the 4th grade, they've already learned that maybe their stories aren't good enough or they aren't a writer. And it's so refreshing to hear how you are showing your students that their stories matter and that they truly are writers. So I really love that.
Yes, it's great.
I think I might need to send your team though. Like we need T-shirts that say like, "What would Jamie do?" So that when you're planning, and you don't know, what would Jamie do?
And we wear them too. What would Jamie do? You know, the whole school then say, hey, where do we get those? You know, because a lot of them are saying, well, what are you guys doing? And you know, and the one that you know, I know you've asked a lot of the other teachers, well, what one do you get? And the one that I get on the most for is the conferencing. Because that's my favorite module. And I've even gotten to the point where when I conference and we've done it enough times that I'll write down the different things that we've gone over on my little posters, and the kids will actually go and sign up for which conference they feel like they need the most. And sometimes they'll sign up for, you know, 2 of them. You know, they're like, I need help with this and this. I don't understand it yet. And, you know, and then I'll even check in with those kids that are saying, well, I've got it all, you know, and so I'll just, you know, check in and I'll do desk side conferences with them. Because some kids I'm finding once they get the hang of this, they want you to check in with them, but sometimes they don't need as much conferencing. But then sometimes I'll even pull in some of those kids that seem to be getting it more in with some of the kids that aren't getting it, so that they can maybe read a little portion of theirs and kind of give an example of what they've written. And wow, the kids are just like, oh, okay, you know, that's how it's supposed to be. And so it's great because, like I said, we can go in and look at that, and we've got them for life, you know. Yeah, people keep saying, well, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, well, I've got at least 7 years left in me. I'm pretty sure. So
love it.
Yeah, you know, COVID didn't do me in. I just met it as it was another challenge, and what are you going to do, right? It is what it is.
Darcy,
So.
I love how much independence and ownership your writers have. I think that's awesome. And module 4 about conferencing, it's the longest module. And the reason it's longest module is because teachers tell me over and over again, that's probably the part they're most nervous about. They lack confidence in how to give feedback to their students. They're not really sure what to say or do or how they're going to get to all of their students. I know I struggled with that. And so I really broke it down into a couple different types of conferences you could do. And I told you exactly what you could say and what topics to talk about. And I tried to make it just as simple as possible because I want to get rid of this overwhelm of giving feedback to our writers. And I love that you're implementing both types of conferences.
Yeah, as teachers, we tend to want to write the story for the kids.
Ooh, you know? Yeah, been there, done that.
Yeah, and you know, and so the thing is it's like I keep telling them, I said, but here's the thing, guys, you can't take a little mini Mrs. Jensen with you everywhere you go when you're writing, and then pull her out and say, oh, well, what do you think about this? And they think that's hilarious, of course, you know. And I said, it's got to be your writing because you're the person, you're the author. I'm not the author. So tell me, what do you think, you know, what are you telling, you know, and so I'll ask them, what do you think is good about that part? And they'll say, well, I really liked this and this, but right here, I don't. And I'll say, well, why don't you? And so they're really good at being able to explain to you why they like something and why they don't like something. And so then you can give them suggestions and the other kids will jump in and say, hey, what about if you did? And they're like, oh yeah, that's a good, so they get a lot of different ideas to go back and revise. And that's the other thing I love about these, Jamie, is it teaches teachers the difference between what revision is and what editing is, because so many people think that they're the same thing. And kids learn that real quick. They're like, oh, I don't just fix my spelling. Oh no, we're going to go in and add to this, and we're going to, you know, probably going to get rid of stuff. And they learn the whole process of writing. And you've broken it down just so nicely. It's just helped these kids just go away being really successful at what they're doing. I had kids ask me, so do we get to keep our notebooks? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, yay. And I'm like, okay, you know, and they're like, well, I'm going to write some more this summer. I've never had kids say that, right?
Yeah, I love it. You know? I love that you brought up editing and revising. Every lesson in the masterclass is actually a lesson I needed when I was teaching writing in the early years. So I didn't know the difference between editing and revising. I gave them all a red pen and told them, okay, make sure you edit and revise your work. And I mean, I thought they would know what that would mean. I even gave them like a checklist, but really it was all editing stuff, not revision. And so, yeah, I didn't really truly understand editing and revision. And so a lot of times teachers goes, how do you get your students to edit and revise? And I'm like, a lot of times my students are doing revisions for so long that they don't even totally know that's what they were doing the whole time. So I tell them, I'm like, oh, that was revision. It's most of our lessons, which is the complete opposite of how I taught early on, which it was like one day, today we're editing and revising. I would just lump them together because I didn't really know the difference.
Oh yeah. It's, you know, it's just what we do. It's like, well, and spelling's easy to fix, right? Or capitalization or punctuation, those things are easy. But, you know, to know how to revise something, you've got to be coached in those things. You've got to be shown what things need to be, you know, revised as you go along. But if you've never been coached in those little pieces, you're never going to know. So that's what I love about it.
So true. Darcy, if there's someone sitting here thinking, maybe I should sign up for the masterclass, I'm not sure about it. What's one last thing you might want to tell them?
I would tell them that in my almost 34 years of teaching, that if you don't sign up for the masterclass, you'll regret it later. It is by far the best professional development that I've ever taken. I use it all the time. It's not just one of those things that I go, oh yeah, well, I got this little bit from that and I'll try that. I use everything. And it's the most inexpensive one that I've ever taken for what I get from it. And the fact that I can use it over and over and over again. And when I forget how to do something, I can go back and reference the videos again. It's just, it is by far the best professional development that you will ever use in your teaching career. And to me too, it's something that you can use no matter whether you have a administration that tells you that this is the curriculum you have to use. You can implement these strategies within that curriculum as well. So you can use it in a myriad of different ways because it's flexible. So it's just a fabulous course, and it's one of the best that I've ever taken. So.
Thank you, Darcy. My heart is super big right now. So thank you so much. Thank you for coming and sharing with everyone today. I know everyone watching enjoyed hearing about how you use the Masterclass in your classroom. So thank you for joining us. It meant a lot to me.
Thank you. It was nice to see you. Bye.
Oh my goodness. I love every single story is just a little bit different, but what you're noticing is every teacher is saying that it is some of the best professional development they've ever taken. And that means the world to me because I didn't always have a good professional development experience. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Every professional development I've attended has not been worth my time or money. And so when we set out to create a training, we said, this has got to be different than other trainings. It has to be fun because everything Not So Wimpy Teacher does, we add fun to it. So we make sure to keep it fun and light, but also it has to be incredibly practical. It can't just be a bunch of foo-foo. There has to be strategies that will work in the classroom. And so the master class is for teachers in grades 2 through 5. One reason we get asked all the time, like, what about first grade? What about sixth grade? I've been to way too many professional development conferences who claim a strategy will work in any classroom. I don't want to be that. Yes, other teachers have used my strategies in other grade levels, but I know grades 2 through 5. My team knows grades 2 through 5. And so we decided to tell you that this works in 2 through 5 and we can stand behind that and really support you, the teachers in grades 2 through 5. So if you're ready to be a more confident writing teacher with students who are excited to write, even if they start off reluctant or below level, like so many of the teachers have talked about today, the Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass is for you. And you can sign up at notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. We're closing registration Thursday. It happens so fast. We only open once per year. After we close, we really just dedicate, my team and myself, we dedicate a lot of time to making sure we help all of the teachers to have the success that they want to get out of the program. And so we only open it once per year because it takes a lot of our time and energy, which we're excited about, but we want to make sure we can give all the masterclass teachers what they need and deserve. So we won't open again until next summer. Once you purchase, though, you have lifetime access. You can watch the modules over if you need to. You can take your time watching them or you can binge watch them. I'm excited about my next guest. Also, someone I've gotten to meet in person because of the master class. I'm going to bring BJ on. BJ's story gets me every time. So I'm going to get better at all these buttons pretty soon. By the end of this, I'm going to be better. Hey, BJ.
Hi, Jamie.
How are you?
I'm great. I'm currently melting right now.
I saw you fanning yourself backstage and I felt so sorry for you.
I know. Well, I should complain, right? You're in Arizona and you're used to this, but I am a Maine girl and this heat wave is killing us because we don't have AC in our house. So this is just very unusual weather for our beautiful state.
I am so sorry to hear that. We have AC, so we just don't go outside because we might die. But yeah, without, I can't even imagine no AC. But there are a lot of places who are having some heat waves right now. So I hope it passes quickly. So BJ, you joined the masterclass 2 years ago, and it's been so much fun getting to watch you grow as a writing teacher, getting to know you. And I love your story because I relate to it a lot. There's so much of your story that is mine too. So I'd love for you to tell everyone why did you sign up for the Masterclass? Maybe tell us what grade you teach too. That'd be good too.
So I am a third grade teacher, and I taught for 10 years in a tiny little rural school that had one class per grade. So I literally was the third grade teacher, taught for 10 years, and then got pregnant and had twins and stayed home with my kiddos for the first 4 years that they were around. And then I was approached by the principal at my school asking if I would be interested in coming back. So I would be literally coming back into my old classroom, into the same school, staff. So it was kind of like a dream come true. So I returned to the classroom, and while I was gone, the district head implemented the Lucy Calkins units of study. And of course, being out, I missed all of the training that was provided for teachers who were teaching this curriculum. And I went back into the classroom, they gave me the box of all the books and all the genres, and I was just like completely overwhelmed, having to sit down and read through pages and pages and pages of this book for literally a 15-minute writing lesson the next day. And, as a new mom, I was not wanting to do this at night. I wanted to come home and be with my babies that I had to literally leave that morning. And I didn't want to be spending my time at home reading through all this stuff to prepare for our lessons for the next day. I wanted to be present with my kids. I cried a lot. And it wasn't just, Lucy Calkins, and it wasn't just the writing. It was just the overwhelm of being a new mom and going back to teaching, because I didn't have any kids before. So I was just so used to like throwing myself into my classroom. I was there on the weekends. I was there late at night every day. And, now as a new mom, I wasn't willing to do that. And I wanted to simplify what I was doing, but I also wanted to better myself as a writing teacher, because I was terrible. Like if I find kids from my first, 10 years of teaching, I want to apologize to them.
I feel the same way, BJ. I feel like
what I did. Oh my gosh.
I feel like I should write them a letter. Like, I am so sorry.
I'm so sorry. I was such a terrible writing teacher.
I think we can all relate. So we're going to have to give ourselves a little bit of grace, but we did have a few teachers come on who took the masterclass before they even started teaching. And I was like, oh man, lucky you.
Yeah.
But I relate to your story so much. And I think some people watching can seriously relate to this. When you didn't have any kids, you could work at night and on weekends. I don't think you should have to, but you could. And then when you have kids and your priorities have shifted, or some people are taking care of elderly parents or have their own health concerns and their priorities shift, and they realize I can no longer be the teacher who works late into the night and on the weekends, but I still want to be the amazing teacher that my students deserve. And it's like this competing interest of wanting to be this wonderful mom and this wonderful teacher. And first of all, it's totally possible, but we have to change some of the ways that we teach, some of our habits, some of our boundaries. And I'm so glad that you realized that early on and didn't compromise.
Yeah.
So tell me about writing in your classroom before, because also this story is my story as well.
So they don't give you training in college for writing. You get, the reading and all that stuff, but I feel like this was a huge gap. And I even went to a university in my state that is known for producing fabulous teachers. Probably 2/3 of the teachers at the school that I work at graduated from this college, because it's just well known for being a teacher college. So before Masterclass, my writing curriculum was basically monthly thematic writing prompts or craftivities. We did the little, I said in my post the other day, it's March. Okay, we're going to write a leprechaun story. If you were a leprechaun, where would you hide your pot of gold? Give me 3 reasons why this is the best place to hide a pot of gold. And then they colored the leprechaun and he was holding the paper.
We had elf applications at Christmas. And what would you do if you were as tall as Abraham Lincoln for President's Day?
Exactly.
Yes. And then you filled the bulletin board with all the crafts and the writing that looked pretty much identical.
They did. They would turn in, they would write their stories and then they would turn them into me. And I called, I basically look back now and I'm like, I was the editor in chief, literally. I would edit those things to the death and, red pen everywhere. And then I would hand them all back and say, okay, copy it over in your neatest handwriting. And then we would literally hang them up on the board. So, people walking by in the hall or parents that received these, pieces
how cute.
Would be like, oh, it's the best. I can't believe my kid used that word. Where did that come from? It wasn't their writing. It was literally my writing with their name and in their handwriting, and it was just terrible.
Okay, but can y'all relate? I mean, can y'all relate that craftivities and these projects and prompts and they're fun. We're not saying you can't ever do any of these. They can be very fun. But for a lot of us, it becomes all that writing is in our classroom. And I actually thought I was a bad writing teacher because I looked at craftivity boards from other teachers around to my school and was like, well, their board looks a whole lot better than my board. So I must be doing something wrong. Even my craftivities aren't coming out as good as theirs are. And I love what you said about you were the editor-in-chief.
Oh, big time.
Oh,
I wasn't
so I'm
teaching
guessing
anything, like any progress or success that my kids had as in writing those first few years, it was completely by accident. So.
Oh, yeah. So I learned the hard way because I mean, I did the same thing, but I learned that I was only making that one piece of writing better for them by marking them all up and then saying, okay, now copy it over. They didn't take anything from those markings and use it in their next piece of writing. I hadn't made them a better writer. I made one piece of their writing better. And that was sort of an eye opener for me. I've got to give them strategies they can use long past this one project.
Yeah.
So do you remember when you started the masterclass, when you came upon it, however that might be, did you immediately say, oh, this is exactly what I need? Or did you kind of hem and haw about it for a while?
I had kind of reached like the end of my rope and I had tied a knot and I was literally like just hanging on, looking for something because I didn't know what else to do. I was at the point where I had kind of told my husband, I'm like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't think I can teach as a mom. Like, it was just killing me. And so I don't even know how I stumbled upon the course. I think I had been actually binge watching your math stuff, math centers and all that stuff. And then I saw the writing stuff and I was like, well, maybe I'll check that out. So I just, at that point, I was like, whatever, I don't even care. I paid for it myself. I was like, I have spent $97 on a lot worse in my life, and so I was just like, I need to try something, anything. And so I did it and I started watching the modules and I couldn't even believe it was like total light bulb moment. Like, oh my goodness. Like, I can't believe that I am just now hearing this. Like, I wish that I had heard this sooner. Like, colleges should be doing this. It just totally streamlined everything and made it simple and manageable for me as a teacher and for my students. And it was just, I was like, I can't even believe that I have that someone else hadn't shared this before.
So tell me what writing was like in your classroom then after the master class.
Oh my gosh.
How did you go from the craftivity classroom to, what did you go to?
So we went from the craftivity classroom to, doing the different genres throughout the year. I love that the Not So Wimpy writing process has every kid working on the same thing. You're not doing that status of the class. All right, who's drafting? Who's brainstorming? Who's doing this? And I mean, you spend like 15 minutes doing status of the class, figuring out who's working on what and figuring out who you need to work with that day. The Not So Wimpy writing process, it's like everybody's working on the same revision strategy and it's just a breath of fresh air. Like, I can't even, everyone's doing the same thing. So you don't have to worry about who's brainstorming, who's drafting, who's editing, who's publishing. You don't have a million kids doing a million different things. Everyone's working on the same thing.
You deserve that. You deserve that as a teacher. Like, teaching is hard enough. You don't need every student in your classroom doing something different at the same time and being expected to meet all of their needs too. Like, you got to figure out why the Chromebook isn't working. You got to figure out why this editing group is laughing, and you got to figure out why this kid's crying. And so when they were all doing the same thing, I felt like, okay, I have a much better shot of making a difference today.
And the other thing that was great too is that, with the monthly thematic craftivities and writing prompts, everyone's writing about the same thing. And as a teacher, it's like, to sit down and have to read, 15, 20, whatever things about leprechaun gold, it's like you get to number 3 and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't read another one of these. But with the masterclass, giving kids choice, I mean, everyone's working on an opinion piece, but they're all different opinions, personal narrative stories. Everyone's story is different. Informational, the topics that they're writing about are different, and they choose it themselves. So they're so much more invested in writing about it. Like, I mean, I have kids that don't care about leprechauns and probably didn't want to write about Abraham Lincoln, but when you give them the choice for their topics, I mean, as long as it's in the same genre that you're doing, why does it matter? Let them have that power to choose what to write about, and then they're going to be so much more interested and engaged.
Yeah, I was scared to give them that choice. I'm going to be real honest. Like, there was something really comforting about us all writing about the same thing. It was like, because then I could tell them, okay, right here, I need you to write about your first, wish or whatever from your leprechaun. So everyone write that. Okay, did everyone write it? Now let's move on. And I felt like all this control, which I really love it as a person. I really crave that kind of control. And so when giving up that control and saying you can choose your own topic, which means everyone's not writing the same thing right now, and so I can't tell you what to put in paragraph 1, it was a little bit of a risk for me. But when I found how excited my students were, and then when I got to actually read good writing, I was like, oh, never mind. This is so worth it. I had to just get past that little bit of fear. And I know teachers will be like, they'll just write about video games. Some will. Some will.
It's true. Some will. But you know what? If they're going to write a fantastic 5-paragraph essay about Minecraft, go for it.
Yeah. You learn a lot about video games. There's actually some really interesting things to learn. So, but a lot of my students preferred to write about animals. Mm-hmm. They were really, really into particular animals and different people that were important to them, maybe from their own faith or someone they'd heard about in a book they checked out. So when they got excited, it was just so worth it. Now, your students seem to get pretty excited about writing. So BJ's in our course Facebook group. We have a group for alumni where we continue to celebrate wins and support you if you need it. And BJ posts a lot about the celebrations happening in our classroom about writing. So writing didn't just get boring because we started doing less craftivities. In BJ's classroom, writing was super fun, actually.
I flipped the switch. I went from like the craftivity writing to like the huge celebration, the writing celebrations. And I think that is just, it's so much fun. I love doing the writing celebrations, and I've used some of the ones that you suggested in the masterclass, but then I've kind of come up with some on my own too. And the kids absolutely love it. Like, those are the things that they remember. Those are the things that they write about, in those end of the year things. Like, I'll never forget when we did Camp Share a Story or the garden party writing celebration. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I'm doing a huge thing, but it's just great for them to celebrate and share their work with their friends. And it's just, I love doing like the little room transformations and stuff. That's totally my jam. But,
doesn't your heart get real happy though when they're that excited to share their writing? I mean, that's a huge flip from the reluctant writer we meet at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a change in your students' level, their writing levels, the scores they're receiving? I mean, we have to look at that too. I personally, with you, I'd rather be like planning celebrations and things. But since our schools look very heavily at those scores, have you noticed a difference from when you flip from being the craftivity teacher to doing a more traditional writing workshop?
Absolutely. I use the rubrics that are included in the masterclass. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I really love doing with each genre is to have the kids set writing goals. So they do like their pre-assessment writing, which, I mean, we were doing with Lucy Calkins anyway, the pre and post assessment. And I still do that with the, using the Not So Wimpy writing process. So the kids do their pre-assessment, and then we use that goal sheet. We go through the rubric and we talk about what, a good opinion piece or a good nonfiction piece is going to have. And I tell them, these are all the different revision strategies that we're going to be covering in the next couple weeks. And I've scored their, I don't write on the draft, God forbid, I make a photocopy and they get it back, and I've marked on the rubric where they are. And then based on what they score on the rubric, they actually pick like 2 or 3 strategies or things that are going to be their writing goal for this genre. And then the thing that I love the most though is that at the end of the unit, they do that post assessment, and then they go back and look, and I score it, their new writing piece on that same rubric from before. And for them to see, how much growth they've made, it's just incredible. And they, you know, like, they don't even believe it themselves. They're like, Miss K, you know, like, look how far I've come, you know, my score went up this many points. And I think that rubric is just a really good visual too, for them to see, you know, like in the not yet, or, you know, starting to, or have mastered kind of thing. It's really great to see how far they come just in like that 8-week period of time.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I think the pre-assessment is so valuable for us as teachers too, to remember where they've come from. It can be so easy to look at the post-assessment and be like, but they didn't do X, Y, and Z. But when we look back at the pre-assessment, it reminds us that they've come so far, and that there may still be some skills and strategies to continue working on as a writer, but we have to celebrate all that growth. So I'm so excited.
I wrote this down as like my note. It says growth over perfection, because that's definitely one thing that the Not So Wimpy team has instilled in my brain. It's not, you know, and I was that, you know, craftivity perfected piece on the bulletin board teacher, and I thought that that was it. You know, that was what good writing and, you know, good writers did. But it's not about perfection. Like, I've learned that now after taking this course, is that it's not about perfection. It's about the growth that they make. You know, they come in, you know, being able to do one thing, and then you take them a little bit farther, you know, and then the next teachers, it's their job, you know, take them where they are and make them go, help them go a little bit farther. So it's not about perfection in my classroom. And I tell my kids that all the time, you know, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. You know, when I'm modeling with my writing pieces during mini lessons or whatever, they see me making spelling mistakes. They see me, you know, keep out, you know, miss words and stuff. So it's not about perfection in my classroom. It's all about growth. And I want them to see that, you know, from beginning to end, how far they've come.
I love this so much. And yeah, if Not So Wimpy teacher had bumper stickers, I think that's what it would say.
Growth over perfection.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that. So I love this. Thank you so much. Now, what would you say to somebody thinking about the Masterclass?
Just do it.
Nike already has that. We can't have that bumper sticker.
I know. I was listening to Darcy when I was in the waiting room, and you know how she was saying it. I mean, it literally was the best PD I've ever taken. And the fact that you have lifetime access to it. I mean, that doesn't happen anywhere. I mean, I've never been to a workshop or a teacher training where you have lifetime access to all the stuff that you get. And not only that, but I mean, you have access to you guys, to the Not So Wimpy team in the Facebook groups, and all the teachers that take the course with you. I mean, we are all doing this together. And then going back into that group, I love that group. Like the Gurus group with all the alumni, it's amazing. Like we go in there and we celebrate with each other. Like, oh, here's what we did. Or, you know, I'm always posting pictures. Here are my kids, you know, doing peer conferencing, or here are my kids, you know, typing on their laptops. Or I go there and ask questions, you know, like, what do you guys do for, you know, word processing? How is that working in your classroom? And I get feedback from those teachers. So it's not even just the support of the Not So Wimpy team. It's the support of, there's one of them. It's the support of, you know, the alumni that have taken the course too, because, you know, we're lifelong learners, and to be able to have access to this for a lifetime is amazing. I go back and watch them all the time. I mean, I took it 2 years ago, and then you redid the videos last summer. So of course I had to go in like, what's Jamie wearing today? Like I needed to see that. And then even like right before I teach a genre, I go and I just watch that module again, just to like refresh it, because I want to hear it again and again and again. And it's just being able to do that is amazing, because there's no other workshops where you can like contact the person that spoke, be like, hey, you came to my district like 3 years ago and talked about whatever. Can you just tell me again what this was? Like nobody does that. Jamie does that. Not So Wimpy teachers do that, but nobody else will give you lifetime access.
I love it. I love the lifetime access. I love the community feature. I learned from you guys inside of the alumni group too, because you guys try all kinds of new things and come up with all kinds of solutions that I learned from. So I'm so glad I get to be a part of that group. Thank you, BJ, so much for taking some time out of your very hot day to join us and tell us your story. I love hearing your story every time. I swear it's my story. Like we mesh.
Thanks.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Aren't these stories? I just love them so much. I love the people that I've met through the Masterclass too. And BJ's right. The community that we have built is so special because we get to learn and grow from each other. And that is something we miss sometimes at a professional development conference, is that whoever you sat by, you don't ever see them again. And well, we're trying to change that. We're trying to create a PD experience that's different than the ones you've been to in the past. And so I love it when someone says, it's not like other PD I've been to. And I'm like, perfect. That's what I was going for. So are you ready to join the Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass? We'd love to welcome you today. notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. Once you sign up, you have lifetime access like BJ was talking about. So I have another good friend to bring on to tell her story. And Tracy's going to be joining me. And she joined the Masterclass 2 years ago. And I've gotten to know her as well through our alumni group. So I can't wait for you to hear from Tracy. Boom. Hey, Tracy.
Hey, Jamie.
Where are you at right now? Are you on vacation?
I am on vacation. Sorry for the bathing suit picture. I just, I'm in Florida, where who would think it would be cooler down here than it would be back in Massachusetts, but it is.
Okay. I've never been to Florida and thought it's cool here. I've always been in Bel Air.
Everybody said to me, you're going to go to Florida at the end of June. And I said, well, it gets hot at home too in the summer. Who would have thought it'd be 106 in Massachusetts and 86 here? I mean, it's humid, but it's cooler.
But it's only 86 in Florida right now.
Yeah, it's humid though. But yeah, so we're, this is a COVID postponed twice vacation. So we're here now. And I got the majority of my family with me, my grown children and their fiancés and my mom and, my father-in-law just drove into town. It's actually a little quieter out here. So thank you.
Okay. Well, we won't keep you too long because you should really enjoy your vacation. But tell us a little bit about yourself. What grade do you teach? You said you're from Massachusetts.
I'm from Massachusetts. I teach grade 3 in a relatively small suburban district. There are 2 elementary schools, 2 towns, and we combine to a high school. So 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and the 2 towns have 1 conjoined high school. So we average about 100 kids per grade at our elementary school. So about 20, 24 kids in a class, depending.
What was writing like in your classroom before you took the master class? If I walked into your classroom, what would it have been like?
Well, my story is a little funnier, as you know. I love to teach writing, and I'm always searching for better new things to go. And yeah, I did craftivities, but I also, did a lot of other things that I felt at the time. I felt like I was fairly good at it. That was my thing at school. And then I signed up for your class, and I had like the biggest light bulb aha moment. I was the binger. Like I got it on day 1, and day 2, I'm like, watched all your modules, because it really just like I was gobsmacked because I was like, oh my God, I've been doing this wrong the whole time. I was one of those teachers. I mean, I have a good grasp on the skills, so I was just front loading my kids. Like I was just brain dumping on them. All right, I'm like, we need a sizzling starter. We need details. We need elaboration. We need the 5 senses. We need dialogue. We need paragraphs, and I would teach them all this, and be like, all right, now go, and then they'd sit down and go, so my teaching was I would front load and then expect them to replicate that.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, why don't you have a sizzling starter?
Yeah.
We just talked about it, but I would expect them. So every time I taught them a skill, I'd expect them to write an entire piece. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I taught you sizzling starters, now go write me an essay. And we're talking about elaboration, it was always like that. And I would be modeling writing up there and just killing it, like, look at me. And I had decent results, but when I taught your class, I was like, practice it as we teach it. That might work better for year-olds. And so I started with it. And of course, I found it like, it was so much more helpful. And I'm, sometimes I teach just regular ed, and sometimes I teach inclusion. And so I found it specifically extremely helpful for my lower performers and my kids on IEPs, because it was way more attainable for them. The struggling writers or the hesitant writers, they were like, what is she talking about? Like, I don't even have a grasp of a complete sentence, right? So if I would give them the graphic organizers and then just ask them to write a sizzling starter, sometimes that's all they could manage, right? And that was okay. And then my higher performers could then go to the back of the notebook and just keep spitting stuff out. But my lower performers, everyone felt accomplished without anyone else knowing what they had done. So my lower performers maybe would fill out the graphic organizer, but yet they accomplished the task and they didn't have to be like, well, I didn't get to anything else, you know, where my higher performers would want to read me their 10-page soliloquy every day. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that was like the biggest aha moment for me, because, you know, I felt confident and I had some of the skills, but I wasn't putting it. I was expecting more from these 8-year-olds than they were even remotely capable of doing. And so it helped me slow down my pace and help me
Tracy,
make them successful.
I relate to this so much because I loved to write. I still love to write. I have something big coming because I really love to write. And so when I got in the classroom, I was like, all right, let's write those opinion essays. And you're going to have this opinion statement to be super strong. And you're going to have these 3 reasons, these 3 examples. And then don't forget to restate your opinion. And then make sure you work on the spelling, the word choice, the punctuation, capitalization. All right, go write your essay. And I mean, the whole class looking at me like, what is she on? And now your highest achievers, they will go and try to do something, right?
Right. They can already do it, most of them, you know.
Yeah. But the majority of my raters kind of just doodled. They didn't know how to be successful. And so when we say, well, how do you help those writers who are reluctant and struggling? You stop expecting them to understand every single skill and strategy in one laundry list type lesson, and we break it down into small pieces. We call it the Not So Wimpy writing process, where we get them to actually use one strategy before we teach the next strategy. I love that you said they could all feel accomplished.
And then, you know, sometimes when we're sharing, right, we're sharing out what we did on our graphic organizer, or like, what was your sizzling starter? Those kids could share. They might not have written anything else that day, but they could share. And I have had some very reluctant writers. Thinking back to the first year, 2 years ago, I had this boy who just did not want to write. And we were working on sizzling starters, and another friend couldn't think of a starter for his baseball story. And this hesitant writer came up with at the crack of the bat. And it was like, because that's all he had to do was just think that one sentence, and it wasn't overwhelming. And I made such a big deal. I took him to his 2nd grade teacher, and, you know, because it was such a good starter. He was my most reluctant writer, but he came up with, and he was like a huge success that day, right? To him, he was like, I can't believe I did this. This is all you want me to do, right? And he never got to the back of the notebook. He was never a kid who could get back to the back of the notebook when the writing time was up, because it was very laborious for him. But he was able to be successful at his level, and he was able to accomplish the pieces. And when you were talking to BJ before, like you said, when you see the finished product, you're like, that's what you got there, buddy. But then you have to think back to, like you said, what they would have been able to accomplish completely on their own without that skill, like their first writing piece or whatever, you know, when they didn't have any of these lessons.
Yeah, it's really mind blowing when you start looking at where they started and where they got to. Even if where they got isn't perfect, it isn't the finish line yet per se, it's still so great. So I love that. I love that you already felt like a confident writing teacher, but still signed up for the course. We don't get very many of you, Tracy.
I know. And I'm always looking for something to help the kids, because I just was like, am I, you know, hello, anybody home? Like, is this thing on? Like, I felt like that. Right. And then I switched from 4th to 3rd, and it was a huge switch writing wise. Like, they would come into me like barely able to write a cohesive, coherent sentence compared to my 4th graders who were a little bit farther along. And because I sometimes have an inclusion classroom, you know, I just was looking for a way to make them successful. And in my district, we do not have a writing curriculum. There's nothing. It's good luck. See ya. Have fun with that. And, you know, there's a lot of people in my district, Jamie, that are like, I don't like teaching writing. I don't teach writing. They don't even really do craftivities, but when they do them, it's very scripted. The kids look like, gosh darn, amazing writers. Like, man, these 1st graders can write 3 pages, right? They're fantastic. But it's like, it's very scripted. It's very formulaic. So then when they get up to us, like, they're like, well, what do you mean? Like, they can't. And in our district, we have to do pre and post assessments for each genre. And we have a rubric, but the prompt is write, you know, we have a very generic prompt for each thing that they have to do. And it's like, it's a choice prompt, right?
Mhm.
Kids have no clue. Like when they get to me, they're like, I don't have an opinion on anything, or I don't know anything about anything. They've never been given that choice. So it's really helpful, you know, for them as we go through the year about the choice building and like coming up with a list of things you could write about and how to do it when you don't know what to write about, like how to go back and find ways or generate ideas and stuff like that, where up until second and third, you know, first and second grade, they were just writing about, you know, maybe we're going to write about an animal and they could choose the animal, but it was very scripted, like my blank has blank eyes, my, you know, so they would, it's very formulaic. So they look like fantastic writers, but when you step back, you see it's very formulaic, because you see what they write on the wall in the first grade hallway, and then you come around to the third grade hallway and you're like, write me something, and you get like 3 sentences, you know? So it's good. They have to learn to generate ideas. They have tons of ideas, but and that's the other thing too. I never really thought about the deliberate, direct instruction of these skills. I'm an innate writer, so I just assume, hey, so is everybody else. And I should have realized I'm not an innate math person. I should have realized that there's a whole lot of people who are not innate writers, and it's not easy for them. So I didn't think about direct instruction on each of the skills. I just would front load and let's go. And so this was good for me. It slowed me down. It made me like slow my roll and take a step back. And so I think people who feel comfortable with writing or think they're doing a good job, maybe with their already designed curriculum, to really take a step back and think about how deliberate is the instruction, you know, and that's what this did for me.
Yeah. How much of the writing are the students really doing on their own? Because we focus in the Not So Be Writing Masterclass, even with second grade, we focus on independent writing. Instead of telling them what to write in every single paragraph, we let them start independent writing that right then. We don't tell them exactly what to write. And I know, because I was one who, and the craftivities, I would tell them exactly what to write. That way it would turn out right, so I could put it on the bulletin board, and then everyone walking by could ooh and ah about how great those assignments were. So I've been there, and it's tempting, but it doesn't help our writers to learn the skills to use in all the future pieces of writing they're going to need.
Right, and I like the fact that whether I'm in the room or not, the writing can continue. So if I need to be at a PD, or if I happen to be out or something, I can leave a lesson and the kids know the format and they understand the flow. So they know, okay, we're going to go over this. There's the mentor text. The kids are going to work on this skill. And then they're going to go into the back of the notebook if there's time. So even for someone taking over my class, whether it's for a meeting, an IEP meeting, or a PD, or if I'm out for a couple of days, the writing can continue. We don't have they're not going to do writing today. I'm not going to be in the room skipping writing. It can still continue without me, because they understand, they know after the first couple weeks, they know how the flow of the lesson goes. They know the timing, they know what they're supposed to do. And then something, this last year has been very trying for everybody. And I felt like I'm good, because I know how my writing's going to go, right? I was full remote with 24 kids till April. And I was still able to do the units a little bit modified, a little bit shortened. I wasn't able to do the 2 pieces. I did 1 piece for each one, but I would make a packet of all the graphic organizers and staple it together. Originally, we started with the cutting, gluing, and pasting for the first unit. And very quickly, I realized not remote. That did not work remote. So I just make a packet of all the graphic organizers for the whole unit, send it home for the whole unit, and we would work through the packet. They had a notebook to do their writing, but they kept the graphic organizers together. They had a nice folder where the graphic organizers were on this side, the notebook was on the other side. And we were able to continue and able to still be successful remote, because they could share their pieces. I put them in breakout rooms. They could share whatever the skill was for the day. And it was very easy for me to plan. It was very easy for me to carry out full remote. The kids, were able to complete it and then get the task done. So even though it was extremely difficult, and I know a lot of my colleagues in my district said, I didn't really teach writing this year when we were remote or when we were hybrid, because the kids were coming back and forth. I was just cooking along, because I just went from one unit to the next, because I had this And once I figured out what would work for my full remote kids, and I had kids who needed one-on-ones in my full remote class. I had 5 kids on IEPs. I had one student who's supposed to have a one-on-one, and I had 18 regular learners. And we were still able to make it through and do some learning and do some writing. And it was great because I could just take, like, I know where I'm going with this. Like, we have a plan. And that was, to me, like a godsend this year. So it's so easy as a teacher, as a planner, like you can take that off. You can take that hat off and be like I'm going into next year. And I'm like, all right, my binders are set. I know what I got. I can walk in and be good to go.
I love that, because early on, I used to every Sunday be searching Pinterest and TPT to try to figure out what writing project we might do this week. But you're right. Once you take the masterclass, we really teach you a routine, and we teach you strategies, and you just keep using the routine day after day. So whether you have a substitute or even when you were virtual, you were still able to use the exact same strategies and routine. It didn't have to change every single week. And that makes it so much easier. And in the masterclass, we just want to make things easier because, well, there's way too much that's challenging. So we're trying to simplify things.
And it worked great for remote because it wasn't like, okay, now kids go right for 45 minutes and come back on later and share what you have. It was a short 5-10 minute task. And then we would share. And if the kids had time, they would write in their notebooks, you know, and of course they had typed it, you know, we typed it, but then I had access to, you know, I had access to their documents so we could converse. And so it worked great. And it was really, really helpful to just be able to take that hat off and go, my writing instruction is set. I'm good. I don't have to worry about that. My units were set for like 8 weeks out each time. And so it was very, very helpful for the class makeup that I had this year. And it gave, you know, I couldn't imagine, like everyone out there, how I was going to get this done. Like, how was I going to teach them? And my kids made progress. Did they make the same amount of progress they would have had they been in person? I'll never know that. But they were writing. They accomplished their writing pieces. You know, we got some good pieces out of them. And that's really, you know, I feel confident sending them on to the next grade because I know they did some writing.
I love that. Thank you for coming, sharing your story, even while you're on vacation. That really means a lot to me. And so I'm sure everyone listening really loved to hear what we can tell is you're a whole lot more confident, and that even though you loved writing before, it sounds like your students are now able to have that same feeling you had.
I couldn't figure out why they didn't love it as much as I did, but it's because I was teaching them too much and it's the same at one time.
Yep. Been there, done that. Exactly what I did too. Thank you so much, Tracy. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay cool.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Oh, wow. Okay. I did that too. I totally overwhelmed my students with a lesson, trying to throw everything at them without really explicitly teaching them how to do each strategy. I didn't even know what strategies there were. I'm being really honest with you. I was kind of winging it. And I know a lot of teachers are kind of winging it themselves. And that's what makes us feel so overwhelmed. And it makes us question whether we're doing a really good job for our students. So in the masterclass, we want to help you to go from overwhelmed to confident. We'd love for you to join us today. NowItsWhenWeTeachHer.com/yes. What we are doing right now, I've been having the best time doing this, but we've brought on so many different alumni to share some of their stories. Their stories are all a little bit different, but the ending is pretty much the same. They all feel so much more confident. They all feel like they have a better plan for writing and are seeing growth in their students. So I'm bringing on another guest. I'm going to bring Jennifer, a third grade teacher, on for you here. I hope you're enjoying their stories. If you have questions about the masterclass or a story for any of our alumni, go ahead and stick it in the comments. We'll either get back to you or we'll ask our alumni to answer it. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Where are you joining us from?
So right now I'm in North Carolina and I'm so excited to be here. It's been so much fun watching other teachers and listening to their stories because I'm the only one so far that has taken the masterclass at my school, hoping that'll change this year.
Ooh, so. I hope that for you too. I think it is super fun. Like Darcy, who's had 25 teachers at her school, you start to see a whole school getting excited about writing. And that I think is just game changer. So third grade, how long have you been teaching?
So this is going to be my 15th year teaching, and it will be my 3rd year in 3rd grade. So I'm excited. I'm actually returning to 3rd grade this fall after taking a year to be a reading intervention teacher. So I haven't gotten to use the writing this past year. So I'm really excited to get back into it in the fall.
Awesome. So did you take the Masterclass 2 years ago?
I did. I think I was the first group when you offered it. I jumped right on it.
Yeah, we have a pretty tight first, like the class of 2019. We seem pretty tight here. So I love it. I love that we're still chatting because we have an alumni group and we continue to share wins with each other. So I love that.
Me too.
Think back a couple of years though to what writing was like prior to the Masterclass. If I made a visit to your classroom, what would writing have looked like?
So I started, I bought the units and started teaching them the year before I took the writing class. Mm-hmm. And so I had the resources, but I loved it and it was amazing. Mm-hmm. But I would say that I still had a lot of questions, and I would kind of, do some things and then wonder about what to do next. And so when I took the Masterclass, it's when everything got cemented for me. I was trying to look at, you have such great free content, all of the blogs and the podcasts and everything. I would jump on different resources you had put out and, read whatever I could. But so I was sort of avoiding some things before I took the Masterclass just because I wasn't sure about how to do them. I was sort of not confident about getting started, and I wasn't really doing a lot of writing conferences. Just sort of, we ran out of time,
Yeah, absolutely. I get it.
Yeah. But, that was the big change for me is after I signed up, I knew from the resources, I loved the program. I loved teaching the writing lesson, the writing units. And I just wanted to put it all together and just feel like, I knew all my questions would be answered. I knew I'd walk away feeling re-energized and ready for the next year. And that's really exactly what happened. So
I love that. There's so many things there that I heard that I related to. I used to skip a lot of things too, just because I didn't really feel too confident about it, just from like what strategies to teach to conferences. Oh my gosh. I started off doing conferences every year, but then like slowly I would just stop meeting with them because I didn't know what to do at the conference, and I didn't know how to manage my entire class while I was conferencing. So it got to be so overwhelming that it would start to fade away. And so, yeah, having great curriculum, it's awesome if you have great curriculum. Some of us do. But we still have to have like that foundation, like, okay, but how do I do conferences? How do I make my lessons more effective? How do I grade and spend less time grading? How do I get students excited about writing? That's all the stuff that the Masterclass covers. So I'm super glad that you found the two and stuck them together.
Yeah, it made such a difference. I mean, I'm one of those binge watchers. So when I signed up, I was ready. Like I gave myself some time to decompress from the year and start my summer and have some fun. And then when I opened the first module, I just couldn't stop. I just went through the whole thing. And now I'm excited to go back because it's been a year now since I've used it. So I just love that it's there for me to refresh and get excited again and remember everything and go over all the aha moments that I had before.
Tell me a little bit about your students and how they were doing before you implemented the strategies and then after you implemented the strategies. I know you felt more excited, but did you see a difference for your students?
Yes, so much. I mean, my writing was so all over the place. The district resources we had, I would spend an hour at a time planning just one lesson. I just couldn't sustain that. So, I just would avoid it. I would just not always get to it. And my students' writing ability, I mean, it showed. I really didn't do writing as much as I should. It was just really all over the place. It was such a hot mess. And then, as the following year when things got, so much easier for me, I mean, I just took the units and they're ready to go. I have them in notebooks. I don't have to prep. I mean, it's just so easy to pull out. It's such a game changer. So I would say, my students they loved it after I started using it and implementing some of the strategies I learned from the masterclass. And we'd have inside recess and they would want to keep writing. I mean, they'd ask me if that could be a choice. So they pull up their old, the previous unit that we had already finished and say, I want to go back to personal narrative and write a story. Can I do that now? Of course you can, So it was amazing, the change. Yeah.
Wow, everyone listening, do your students ask for more writing time during inside recess? Because my students wouldn't have been asking for that in the early stages. They were hemming and hawing that we had to do writing. So it's so fun to hear that. How about their writing level? Did you see a growth like on the rubric or in testing, that sort of thing for your students?
Definitely. We are lucky that we don't have any kind of state writing assessment that we have to do, but I did see, the growth from the beginning of the year. I would use the rubric for the pre-assessment, and then for the post-assessment, and really using what I learned in the masterclass helped me with that too. That was another part that I was like doing, but not really super confident about why I was doing it or how I could use it to help me. And after taking the masterclass, it was just crystal clear what I needed to do and how it could really, save me time and improve my instruction. So yeah, their growth was incredible. I would see, some student scores double from the time that they started the pre-assessment to the post. I would make copies of it because, it's just so incredible. It's like you have to, whenever you're having a hard day, you pull that out and look at it and think about, what an impact their time has been in writing. And, parents were excited to see it. I would staple it, the post, the post on top of the pre-rubric, and just, it just spoke for itself. The kids were so excited to show their families too. So.
I love it. You said when you're having a bad day, you could get out there writing. A lot of teachers would think, oh, that's not what I would do on a bad day. So that really is a testament to the growth you are seeing in your students. You've kind of hinted at some of the lessons, but what would you say is probably your biggest aha moment or the lesson or strategy that you really liked the most?
Oh gosh, it's just so hard to choose. I'm going on my 15th year teaching, and there was not a single module that I didn't get like loads of new tips out of. It was just, I don't even know if I can choose. Everything, I was just like scribbling down notes and, rewatching parts. And, it just, I think the confidence is the biggest part too. I think just the overall feeling like I have a plan, I know why I'm doing this. And then if anyone has questions, like, I would have coworkers come to me because I have coworkers that were also using the units to ask me. And then even parents that ask them questions, and then I would help them with their answers. So
you became the resident writing expert.
Well, trying to help in any way I can. I'm not sure I could call myself an expert yet, but I'm definitely continuing to grow every year, thanks to all of your amazing resources. Yeah,
I love that. Growing every year. That's exactly it for teachers too. Growth over perfection for teachers. I love that. So we have some teachers here who aren't sure if they should take it. I get it because having to pay for your professional development, which is pretty common in the teaching industry, but not common in any other industry, kind of stinks, right? But when we set out to create this professional development, we kept that in mind. And we were like, we've just got to create something different than other PD opportunities. So I'd love to hear what you would say to someone who's really considering it, but hemming and hawing, and they're going to wait until the last moment. What would you say to them?
I would say don't wait. It's I thought about it too. Just, the only thing holding me back is the price. I knew it was going to be incredible. And I asked my PTA for some help with the funding, and they came through, and I didn't really even know if they would or not. I did buy it and hope that they would. Because I just knew, I mean, I knew that the time that I would save was well worth the money. I mean, your time is valuable as a teacher. And if you can do something to help yourself, get through the year, then it's well worth it. I mean, every penny is worth it. And I would say don't delay, because you're going to miss out and then have to wait a whole nother year to do it. I wouldn't want that for someone that was ready now. So I think it's just something you do for yourself, just to make your life better and make your students' lives better.
I love it. I feel like it's one of those things, like, you deserve this. You deserve to not have to worry about writing. At the very least, there's one subject you don't have to worry about, and it tends to be the subject we're the least confident about. So if we can take that worry off your plate, it's something you deserve. So I love this. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us this morning, Jennifer. Really appreciate you taking some time out of your summer to share with us. I know everyone enjoyed hearing from you.
Thank you. And thanks so much for letting me chat about this. It's been so much fun. And thanks for all that you've done for teachers and students.
Thank you.
I'll see you later. Bye.
Oh, I love it. The confidence and the fact that she just knew she wanted it. She deserved it. Love it. I love how she asked her PTA, her PTN, after she signed up for the course. She probably submitted her receipt to ask if they would mind reimbursing her. That's an awesome strategy. It might not always work for everyone, but it was definitely worth it for her. I've seen a question pop up about what's the difference between the Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass and the units that we have. And I think that's an awesome question. I created a writing curriculum several years ago. I just wanted a curriculum that was going to be easier for teachers to prep and prepare, and would just include everything. They wouldn't have to go out and buy a bunch of books, and they wouldn't have to read 10 pages every day. And so that's the units that you see people referencing. That's my writing curriculum. After I released the writing curriculum, though, we got so many questions from teachers. They wanted more. And I realized that having writing curriculum is awesome, because I went many years without any, and then some with curriculum that was hard for me to use. Right? Having writing curriculum is great, but we still have to have the foundation. We have to know how to teach. We have to know how to deliver an effective lesson. We have to know how to get our students to write independently. We need to learn how to do conferences and give great feedback, how to grade, and how to make that process simple, how to get students to share, how to start writing workshop at the beginning of the year. So once we learn all of those strategies, then we can add curriculum, the units on top. So the masterclass is the professional development. It is the how. And those of you who don't have any curriculum, we do have curriculum that we offer at a discount for our masterclass teachers. Other teachers in the masterclass have curriculum they're required to use, like you've heard from several of our alumni. And so they add their curriculum on top. But I hope that helps you to know the difference between the two. The masterclass is an online professional development program specifically for grades 2 through 5. And if you're ready to join us, we'd be super excited to welcome you. It's notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. I have another alumni for you to hear from, and I'm going to bring Shelby on to tell you a little bit about her experience teaching writing. I think you're going to relate to her experience as well. And I'm excited. We have a second grade teacher. I think this is our first second grade teacher we've had on today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Shelby on. Hello. Oh, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I sure can. There we go.
There we go.
I think I can't hear you and you're on mute. I mean, they're just like if you haven't said them once each day, I mean, did you even get out of bed?
Yes.
Well, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here. Where are you from?
I'm from Kansas, a small, not really small. I mean, the district is a pretty good size, but the school that I teach at is pretty small. It's just a one section school. So there's only one second grade teacher, one first grade teacher, and so on. So
that's tough when you don't have people to collaborate with. So that's already a challenge there. I can imagine. But tell me, when did you take the writing master class?
I took it last summer during COVID is kind of when it all started for me. Writing has always been something that I've struggled with, and not having a partner teacher, things like that. As I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to make it better. And every summer, I know every teacher's, what can I do to make next year better? What can I do to improve? Things like that. And so writing was just kind of my focus at that point. And I came across your masterclass, and that's just kind of where it started for me.
It's awesome. Stepping in and jumping into some PD right in the middle of COVID last summer. It was kind of a crazy time, but we went ahead and offered the masterclass because we just felt like, well, maybe we can help you with one thing. We can't help you with all of it, but maybe we can help you with one thing. So I'm so glad you jumped in. But tell me about writing in your classroom prior to the masterclass. What did it look like?
Writing in my classroom was chaotic. It was crazy. It didn't happen very often. It was kind of a rare occasion. I mean, I tried to, but I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what to do, didn't know where to begin. And so it was just overwhelming for me. And so I know that overwhelming feeling kind of went on to my students and things like that. And I didn't want that for them. So I just kind of avoided it. And so like when we were doing writing, I used to teach kindergarten, and I did teach kindergarten with a partner teacher and things like that. So I've had that experience, but when I moved to second grade, I didn't anymore. And it's totally different. That's a big jump as far as their abilities and things like that. But I knew modeling was important. But I always had students who had like one sentence. I had students who were done with 3 stories. I had, paragraphs written, or, they just had an idea. And so I didn't know how to juggle all of that. And so I was trying to model everything all at once to meet the needs of every single one of those students. And then I'd look up, okay, well, I guess we'll try this tomorrow because we're out of time now. You guys just watched me. And it wasn't successful at all because I'm like, why can't you guys do this? I modeled it for you. You're not getting it.
I've been there too. Does anyone else relate to that, where you spend your mini lesson modeling an entire story or an entire report because you're really trying to show them every single piece because you want them to go back and use every single piece right then and there because we're kind of rushing it. And then you take up the whole time so they don't even have time to write. Plus you've just front loaded everything in hopes that they would somehow, you weren't even hoping they'd pick up 1 or 2 things. You actually wanted them to pick up everything. Yeah. I've been there, done that. I had a writing bulletin board. I put a big whiteboard on it so that I could write my essays in front of them every day. Like somehow I was on stage performing for them for my writing lesson. Yeah, BJ called it the maxi lesson. I've said it before. Maxi skirts are cute, but maxi lessons are boring.
Yes, for sure. And that's you had behavior problems pop up during then because they were bored. And so you would have to stop and take care of that. And it was just a mess. It was very chaotic.
Yeah. And so when it's chaotic, of course you start to avoid it because you're not seeing the value. So then if there's anything else you can do with that time, like, oh, math, we probably need to do math a little longer. Of course you do that because you feel more confident in some other subject areas.
Yes. I felt like at least they might not be getting writing, but at least they were getting something. We needed to test. Okay, let's use our writing time because that's our least successful time of the day. And so and then I felt bad because I was like, they weren't ready. I didn't feel like I was pushing them on to be successful in the next class, in the next grade.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that it's hard and we don't feel confident. And yet our heart still says we've got to be doing this for our students. And so you happened upon the masterclass. Did you just buy right away when you saw it, or did you wait until last minute?
I was one of those waited till the last minute. I pondered it. I kept going back and forth with it. Do I do it? Do I not do it? Is it worth it? I mean, because you always see, I'm always looking for things. How can I do better? What can I improve upon next year? Just trying to always make myself better, I think, as we all do as teachers. Just what can we do for our students? And so you always see these things in front of you. This is your answer. This is what you're looking for. The best way to teach this, things like that. And so that's always in front of you. And then you purchase it and it's like, oh, that's not what I wanted. That didn't help me in my classroom whatsoever for my students, things like that. And so I was afraid that that's what this was going to be. But I was like, you know what? I haven't done anything else for writing. And I was watching some of your videos and I saw some of your free downloads that I'd seen. And I was like, she's doing it right. Something's working for her. I want to know what that is. And so I did. I finally did it and I haven't regretted it. And it was just the answer I was looking for.
I can relate. We've signed up for a PD conference or some kind of PD training that wasn't what we needed. I know I signed up for a few that I was like, I don't know what I would do with any of that. I just needed the PD certificate, but I didn't see the true value. And so when we set out to create this, we're like, we're going to stuff this with value and action, and we're going to only teach things that we know will work for these teachers. And so I'm super glad that you did join us. We have a lot of last minute signups. So, and then you joined the masterclass. Did you binge watch the lessons, or did you watch them a little at a time?
I started binge watching them because once I got started, I couldn't stop. I was like, oh, why don't I do that? Oh, I could do it like this, or, just thinking about my classroom and things that I could do. And I was like, oh, I just feel already so much more confident and things like that. And so I started binge watching, and then, I think I started back to work and going to trainings at work and got overwhelmed with that. And so I had stopped, and I didn't finish watching everything. But even not finishing everything, I still felt so much more successful, so much more confident. And I had kind of watched throughout the year and things like that. And it just really helped. And I even actually just binge watched all of it again for the next coming year.
Love it. So I love that you get lifetime access. So
Yes.
if you do get busy with something, you can come back later and watch the lessons that you need to watch. So that is really a big deal, a big part of the masterclass that you don't get from other professional development experiences. Yes. So last year then was your first year to get to use the strategies, and last year was kind of a crazy year too. So tell me a little bit about writing last year after you'd taken the masterclass.
So last year it was crazy. And so we were hybrid, we were remote, we did all 3 learning models, and it was just a constant change. So it wasn't quite as successful as I think it probably could be in a traditional normal setting for anybody. I mean, last year, I think everybody was just trying to maintain and make it through the year. But they still were. That was one area that I felt like, okay, that's taken care of. I know what I'm doing. I don't have to stress about it. I don't have to worry about it. These guys at home can do this. These guys that are in here can do this. And I had a plan, an organized plan that I didn't have before. I mean, before there was no organization, didn't know what skills and strategies I needed to be working on. But I felt like with this, it at least gave me that. So then I could navigate and go through the craziness of last year.
Yeah. And so those mini lessons, did they get a little bit shorter?
They did. They got a whole lot shorter. And I'm like, oh, we can do this whole thing during this time. And they really, really condensed. And what really changed for me was the notebook that you talk about, to where those that are still like, this is what you're working on, this is what we're teaching, so I'm going to model just that piece. That was a complete game changer in my classroom. And then go back and implement it, try it. And then if you're done, that's great. Go to the end of the notebook and write and things like that. I didn't feel like I was having to hold my ones back that were struggling or were done. They finished up really fast, and okay, well, we've got to wait for the whole class to be done so I can move on and teach the next thing. So everybody's getting it at once and knowing what's going on. I would stop them previously and wait, and then it would be like weeks and weeks. And I'm like, so then I would start spoon feeding the ones that just weren't getting it because I didn't know what to do. And so that notebook, okay, you're done. That's great. Go to the end of the notebook, do, the same genre, but write your own story, make up something. They were busy. And so I didn't get the behaviors. I didn't get the stopping, things like that. And I could go help and do those small groups, do those help at those conferences and help with those students that were struggling and needed a little bit more of my attention.
I love it. It sounds like you just had a plan, even, because it sounds like prior you might start something for a little while and then not come back to it. We've all been there. So I'm glad that the masterclass gave you a routine that you and your students can get really used to. Now, did you see any improvement in the quality of student writing?
Yes, absolutely. Their writing, I felt like they knew what I was expecting. They knew what I wanted, and they weren't overwhelmed by it. And so, I mean, yes, they started with, I had some that were writing pages and pages and pages to begin with. They loved writing. They were just good at it. But most of my class dreaded it. They didn't like doing it. Even when they were at home, I had parents tell me, It's a struggle. They don't like doing this part. It's like, I know, it'll get better. Hang in there. It'll be okay. We'll get through it together. It'll be okay. And by the end of the year, I didn't have that. They were, for some of them, yes, you're always going to have those students that they just don't like it. They don't care for it. They'll do it and they go through it faster, things like that. And they're growing, and that's what we're looking for. And so I don't know. It was just a big transformation. We started, just because we were so back and forth with our schedules and things like that, and our very end of the year got a little crazy and things. We didn't quite keep up with the rubrics like I wanted. Like I said, it wasn't quite as successful in my classroom as I wanted it to be, just because of navigating through everything. The craziness.
It was a crazy year.
Yes, it was. So I'm hoping for next year to be better at that. But we did start with the rubrics, and I did see tons of growth.
I'm so happy to hear that even though it was not your usual year, you still saw lots of growth from your writers. That is excellent. That's what we want to hear. And so let's see here. I want to make sure I cover everything. And you said you brought up you did the small groups in your classroom. Were you doing that prior to the masterclass?
Absolutely not. I tried, and I knew I needed to be. And so we would start with it, but we would get back there and a student would be off task, or a student, at their seats would be off task, or would need something and need help. So I'd have to get up and go help them. And just because they didn't know what they needed to be doing. And then when we were back there at small groups, I didn't know what I needed to be doing to help them. I saw that your entire page is misspelled. There's not a word that is spelled correctly. There's no punctuation. It's just one complete huge sentence, things like that. And I was overwhelmed. How do I help this child? How do I don't even know where to start for you. And I didn't want to damper them. I didn't want to just go through their page with a pen and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and just mark out their whole page, because I didn't want them to not enjoy it and remember that, oh, well, she said I did bad and I don't even want to attempt it anymore. So I would avoid it. And we started it. We tried doing small groups at the beginning of the year, had great intentions, great plans, but it never followed through.
Yep. I think we've all been there, that when they come for a conference, whether you were doing it one-on-one or in a group, that you didn't quite know what to say to them. And so after a while, you just sort of stop doing those conferences to avoid that uncomfortable feeling of not knowing how to give feedback, even though you know you need to. And so you were doing it at groups last year, and you had a little bit of a different experience.
Yes, it was so much more successful. I felt like I could use those rubrics to pinpoint what that student needs. Yes, they needed a lot, but I could pinpoint, okay, this is your weakest area. Let's start here and let's find all of this and work together on it, come up with solutions or, strategies, things like that, reteach it. And it was just very helpful. And then after we kind of worked through that, we could move on to something else on the rubric. And we might not get through the whole rubric, and that was fine. We would, on the next genre, maybe pinpoint that area next time if it was weak. And sometimes they surprised me, and on the next genre, they would carry that skill over. I'm like, oh, I didn't think you had that. I thought that was going to be an area that we needed to work on, but they were able to still get it through listening to me with other students, listening to the mini lessons, maybe overhearing things at small groups or conferences and things like that. And they still were able to carry it over. So they surprised me.
I love it. With the Not So Many writing process, we see a lot more retention from genre to genre because we slow down and teach in chunks, which gives students the opportunity to actually master it before we move on. One of the teachers had a question for you. Since you're our first second grade teacher we've talked to this morning, what kind of paper were you using for your second grade writers?
So we have a writing notebook, and it's the one with the dotted lines. It was like, what is that, 1 3/4 inches or something like that?
The primary notebooks?
Yes, we had some of those, and we would use those. I had other students who could handle using the notebook, regular lined notebook paper, and we would do that. So I just kind of adjusted depending on the students and what they needed.
That's a really good thing, that every student doesn't necessarily need the primary lines, but it doesn't mean every student's notebook has to look exactly the same either.
Right.
Shelby, I know that you joined the masterclass last minute. You really thought it through, and I'm so glad you did join. What would you tell some of our teachers? We're getting to the last minute now. What would you tell them who are a little bit on the fence or scared to join, thinking this might not be a good professional development experience because they've had some negative experiences in the past?
Yes, it's exactly what you're looking for. I mean, even if there's something in every module, every lesson that you can pull from it, little things here and there. That first lesson, I felt so much information that I was getting and that could be automatically easily implemented in my classroom at that time. So, I mean, if you're thinking about it and kind of one of those last minute people like me, just go for it. It's going to be a very good, helpful decision.
I am so thankful that you're here this morning to share. Thank you for just taking some time out of your summer.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll see you in the alumni group.
All right, thanks.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I know that we've all had bad professional development experience. When I decided to create the Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass, I thought long and hard about what would make a great professional development experience. First and foremost, you wouldn't have to show up on a certain day and time, because I had way too much professional development on Friday afternoon during the school year, or even worse, my first week of summer break, PD. And so this masterclass, you can take it anytime, anywhere, which also means you can take it in your pajamas, your swimsuit by the pool. You heard Amber earlier who watched a video while she was on her vacation. You can take it absolutely anywhere. The other thing about professional development that was tough for me is that I would think they were sharing a lot of strategies and saying that they would work K through 12. And I didn't really know if it'd work in my classroom. And so the master class is for teachers in grades 2 through 5, because we know that these strategies work in 2 through 5. We have experience in 2 through 5, and we can support you. And the alumni and the other peers you'll be going through the master class with also have that same experience. So we can help you through it. So we wanted to create a professional development program also that included support, because when you leave a conference or a training, you don't usually get to contact the speaker later. If you're like, hey, I went to go do that, I had this happen, what would you do? But in the masterclass you can, because you get an 8-week members only Facebook group where I do live Q&A every week. And then at the end of the 8 weeks, we invite you to join our alumni group where you get to stay and share questions and wins throughout the year and learn from other peers inside the group. And I know you've heard several of the alumni mention it, but we also wanted the professional development to be fun, because I've been to some professional development that was kind of snore fast. So created videos for you to watch, and we kept them super short. And then inside the Facebook group, we like to do giveaways and contests and games to make it more fun. So we've created a professional development experience like the kind we would want to take. If you're ready to join us, we'd love to welcome you today. It's notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. So I have one more guest I'm super excited to chat with. Another one of our class of 2019 alumni like BJ and Amber and several others that we talked to today. But I'm going to bring my friend Karen on. And Karen, where are you? Because, I mean, you look like you're on vacation.
It's my backyard, but I'm making it look really good.
Awesome. So let everyone know where you are and what grade level you teach.
Sure. I'm in a north suburb of Chicago, and it's like 80 here, so kind of sweltering, but not so much. And yes, I teach 3rd grade. Love it. Love it. And by the way, you look adorable, Jamie. So cute.
Oh, thank you. Everyone always says I look good in yellow. It's not my favorite color, but since people say I look good in it, I now buy it.
I've been teaching for 22 years, and your class has made all the difference. I'm not even kidding you. Not even
22 years. You don't look old enough to have taught for 22 years, Karen.
Well, it's been more than that, but just at this one school.
All right. So we have a veteran teacher. So tell me, it's been 2 years since Karen joined. She's in our class of 2019. But tell me a little bit about writing in your classroom prior to the master class. How were you teaching writing? What did it look like?
Yeah, that's always a funny story, because like, I don't know if everybody else feels this way, but I would run over to my next door coworker and be like, okay, what are you doing for writing today? I don't know. What are you doing? I don't know. Should we do a prompt? Should we write about what trip we just went on, class field trip? Should we just have them read about their weekend? And, you know, we would honestly try things all the time. Now, my district would always have some amazing thing that we'd try, and it just would fall by the wayside. It really would. And there was nothing that was like easy and would explain it. It'd be like, here, this is what you need to make it look like. This is the end result. Do it. And we just never understood how to teach it. And that was the hardest part. And we were just like, we just gave up a lot, honest to God. And we would just do whatever came to mind that day.
Yeah. Can anyone relate to that? I mean, I can totally relate. It'd be Monday morning. I'm like, what should we do in writing today? What should I have them do? And the whole feeling of like, I don't know how. And even when the school does give you, maybe they give you a curriculum, but the problem is you haven't been taught the actual how. And sometimes the curriculum can feel very heavy if you don't have all of those foundations in place. So Karen, I get it. I feel it. What were your students thinking about writing back then?
You know, that was painful just to watch because you just expected them to be able to like just do it. And then you'd get aggravated. You'd be like, well, why can't you have capitals and where are your punctuation marks? So you would just get frustrated, and you can't get frustrated at them because you haven't taught them, because you don't know how to. So it was a whole little vicious circle.
Yeah, I think we can relate to that for sure, that you're just like, you expect that if you said to write about the field trip we just went on, they could all whip out at least 3 paragraphs. Instead, it's like a sentence and it's not even capitalized.
I don't know what to write. I don't know how to start all that. It was.
And how do you spell?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like writing in most of our classrooms. So we totally get it. And then you happened upon the Masterclass. Did you instantly know you wanted to join, or were you a little bit hesitant?
I'm always hesitant about everything. I am. And, I'm like, ooh, I don't know. And I'm like, I knew about you. So I knew you were rock solid. And so I'm like, you know what? If it's Jamie, it's got to be good. So I knew I could give you a chance. And then once I dove in, it was unbelievable, like so easy. Just like, I was so excited every time. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to do the module. Oh, and I'd be sitting, I remember this. I was in the back seat. I would open up my hatch. It was summer. And I'd take one of my daughters to like ballet. So I'm like, I'm not sitting inside. So I'm like, I'm going to start the class. So I'd have the notes. I'd printed out the whole like little paperwork that you already sent. And you can pre-write on it. And so I felt like, okay, this is great. I can do it anytime I want. And I got so inspired by you because you're so easy to listen to and you just get it. And you're so likable. Honest to God, like it was just, I could listen to you all the time. So it was just so easy to just go, oh, and you didn't want to stop because you're like, no, I want to get more. And especially you get people going and you want to keep going because you kind of want to keep learning. What do I do next? When should I get my manuals together? When should I get everything together? And you get so excited. So that's what was really exciting about it. And then the Facebook group itself was like, that was huge. Like right then you have a whole family that you can turn to and you can be like, hey guys, do you know how to do this? Or how did you go about this? Or how did you do your binders? And everybody has something to tell you and something to share and something to offer. And they want you to learn and they want you to do well because they're doing well with the program. So that's what I loved about it so much.
Wow. First of all, thank you for saying I'm so easy to listen to and you could listen to me all day. I'm going to tell my husband and my teenagers this.
I love that.
But yes, the Facebook group is also so supportive. Hearing it called a family is so special. For a while there early on, we were just going to do the 8-week group and you guys were like, no, you were not having that. And so we had to completely reevaluate. And so then we created an alumni group that we currently have. And I'm glad that you all called us out and said, absolutely not. You gotta have a group for us to continue because you were right. It's a great place to keep learning. Okay, so you joined the Masterclass. You're watching videos from the back of the car during the summer. I'm envisioning this all. Tell us how writing changed for you after the Masterclass. What did it look like after you watched the lessons?
It was so exciting to get in the classroom. And what the best part about it was like, I had a manual. I mean, even if I wasn't ready, like I could just read right off of what I'm doing for that day because it was simply put. And even if I had like maybe 2 minutes to pre-look at it, I knew what I was doing. And
so you were using the Masterclass strategies and you were using our curriculum.
Yes. Yes. So that made it so much easier to just dive right in with the kids. And just the whole fact that they got their binder and they got to be part of it. They were super excited about organizing that binder. And, you know, honestly, every day they couldn't wait to see, what are we going to learn next? What are we putting into our binder? You know, what lesson's going to happen today? And especially when they got to the mentor text, holy cow, they were like, who wrote these? These are so good. They couldn't get enough of like the stories, like just the examples and what it's supposed to look like and sound like. And they just ate them up. I'm serious to goodness. They just couldn't wait for one of those mentor texts every time. So
before the masterclass, you were just kind of hoping they would write a couple of paragraphs, but that wasn't happening. What did you see after the masterclass as far as the writing that they were delivering?
Oh, huge, huge difference. They felt so much more confident, honest to God, because they knew what they were doing, because I knew what I was doing. So I could teach them and lead the way. And then they could even go back and they can reference a lot of things that we have done, because again, it's right there for them. They're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And it's so step by step. You're not throwing everything down their throat at once. And that's why it's easy for the kids to take in. It's not like we said, just go write a paragraph. No. Step by step, gradually share it with your partner. I loved that idea when they would like turn and tell, oh, what have you been writing? So that way they feel good about it. And they're not just waiting to share it at the very last part when you're finally all done, even though that's terrific. But honestly, such great writers. I mean, even I had one boy I'll never forget. He hated writing before it. Hated. And I was like, oh, here we go. And so I'm like, well, today we're doing a different writing. And he's like, oh, great, writing. And so I was like, no, you're going to like this. So after a little bit, after he started realizing it wasn't what we normally did, that boy was like, when are we doing writing? When's writing? And he'd be like, honest, get the binder out already. It was it's huge difference for my whole class. They felt so much better about themselves. So terrific writers, honestly.
I love that. Honestly, that gentleman you're talking about reminds me of a certain Jamal. Did you see the video I did? I did a video where I got to play different students from writing classes, and Jamal was one of the characters, and he didn't care for writing very much. Ooh, writing. When's recess?
That was the best video ever, by the way. That was so fun.
Well, we all related to it because we have all those students in our classroom. So I love it. What was your favorite lesson? What would you say is probably the lesson that made the biggest impact in how you taught writing?
Wow, that's a great question. You know what? I would say, I know this is like on the kids' point, because I'm always about what are kids getting out of it? Honest to goodness, it was the last when they got to share and you did a celebration. That to me like said everything, because they didn't know that it was coming. And it was, I mean, the first one they had no idea. So I was taking advice from you and from the Facebook, our Facebook mentors, and I did the whole camping theme. I mean, I actually lugged in real logs in the middle of the room, and I know I did it all up.
Wow!
And then got the sleeping bags, all that, and the s'mores and all that. And so anyway, they didn't know that was coming. But when I said, "Okay, everybody, we get to share," it's your turn to like reveal. And they were like, what? Because at first they just thought it was the s'more party, but then they're like, oh, we get to actually be heard. That was so terrific. And then it got them motivated for the next whole writing that we've got to begin, because they knew that was coming now. They're like, oh, wonder what the next one is. So they couldn't wait. And then I did like an opinion one, and that was fun. It was very simple, but I brought in a big podium and, had another class come as like almost like jurors, so they can like hear and kind of debate their opinion with them. And it was very simply done, but they were so proud to get up there behind that podium and celebrate their successes and just be heard. So I have to say that just seeing what they did and what they accomplished, to me, that was huge.
To turn from reluctant writer to a student super excited to get to share their writing, I think that's what we really want as teachers. And so I love that your students were celebrating their success. That's awesome. So, all right, we have a lot. We've been chatting for a long time, but we still have a lot of teachers here who are on the fence. They're not really sure if they should take this course. And I know you said you overthought it too. So,
Oh my gosh, yes.
what would you tell someone who's still on the fence thinking about this course?
In a heartbeat. I've taken, now remember, I've been over 20 something years teaching. I've taken so many of these classes, and that you almost feel like it's the sure thing. Okay, great, it's a sure fix. Or you go to the conferences and you're like, okay, I'm gonna learn something. And you get excited for that day. And then you're kind of like, yeah, maybe I'll try something, maybe I won't. No, you're not gonna get that. With Jamie's, honest to God, this writing program, you are gonna get exactly what you want out of this, which is fantastic writers. And you're gonna feel so good about yourself as a teacher teaching this. So I'm not kidding. Do not even hesitate, because I was like, ooh, but the money. And I'm like, oh, please. Half the time the district will cover you. I mean, if you're lucky, they'll do that. But it's even better because it's like, you can do it at any time. You don't have to sit through a conference and just one day thing. You do this at your own pace, whenever you want. If it's into your schedule, you watch it wherever. That's the best part. And then you have, like, again, I said, the Facebook family. When you have that many people, you know, you go to a conference and then you talk to people around there and you get all hyped up, and then you don't have those people again. Mm-hmm. But here you have a whole abundance of people to reflect on and ask and share and give ideas. And that's completely huge. Nowhere else have I ever found something like that. And so I'm telling you, I started just rewatching the videos again, just because I want to be refreshed. Because of COVID, I was like, shoot, didn't get on it last year. I want to be ready and prepared. Well, I've got that opportunity now. I always have those at my fingertips. So you're never going to get that. And even if you do a conference online, sometimes they'll give you like, you can have it for like 6 months and then it's gone. And I'm like, oh no, don't do that. So, I mean, with you, it's always there. It's fantastic. You cannot go wrong. I'm telling you, everybody, please don't even think twice. It is, I mean, you can even email me personally, text me personally. I will tell you that it's amazing. I will back Jamie up 100%. It's fantastic.
Karen,
you'll get a lot for your money.
You are awesome. I wanted to create a professional development experience where people would say it was 100% worth it. It saved me so much time and it was so valuable. So thank you. I love hearing your stories. I love getting to catch up, and your backyard, it does look like vacation back there. So
I'm trying.
You just need your fruity beverage.
No, water's all going to be right now.
Pretend.
It's great seeing you, and you take care, Jane.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we've come to the end. Wow, that was amazing. I feel like I just got to catch up with a whole bunch of really good friends, and the masterclass brought us all together. So I'm super excited to welcome you into our masterclass family, notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. If you still have a question about the masterclass, if you're still on the fence, go ahead and stick it in the comments. Myself or my teammates, we would love to chat with you, make sure your questions get answered, and help decide if it's a good fit for you. The Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass, if you've missed it, is a professional development program completely online for teachers in grades 2 through 5 who want to become really confident writing teachers, and they want strategies that are easy. They want something that's going to work in their classroom that doesn't cause them extra stress, extra planning. They want something that's easy to implement. That's what the masterclass is about. We are going to help to make you confident. And the best part about that is that when you have a confident teacher in the classroom, you get students who become confident writers. And that's our big end goal, is we want to see confident teachers who have confident and thriving writers. And we're super excited because we've had so much success with the teachers who've taken the masterclass, who come back and tell us all these stories that we shared with you today. And I mean, I'm pretty overwhelmed right now. I feel like I've had a really emotional morning just hearing all of these amazing stories. But I want you to have your success story on here when we open the masterclass next summer. Whether your story is here in this live stream or whether your story is in our alumni group, I want to celebrate your success story next. So join the Not So Wimpy Writing Masterclass today. You do get lifetime access. And that's something that you don't really get from other professional development programs, but you get lifetime access. So Karen said she's going back and rewatching because after the COVID year, she feels like she needs a refresher. Several teachers mentioned that they go back and watch the whole course, or they pick a module that they want to rewatch. And you have that ability. You can do, some of you might not feel like doing PD right now, or maybe you want to start in July or August. You have that ability too. It's self-paced, lifetime access. But registration closes Thursday. So you need to sign up by Thursday. Once registration closes, we are not opening the doors to the masterclass until next June of 2022. So that's the thing. If you want to help your students this year, you want your 2021, 2022 students to have this kind of success that you heard all of these teachers talking about. You want to help take your reluctant writers that are coming to you this year and turn them into thriving and excited writers. This is your chance to sign up. We won't be opening again for a year, and that's just because we really devote a lot of time and energy to making sure the teachers in the masterclass have everything they need. Every year we relook at the masterclass lessons, compare it to the questions teachers had to make sure we have all of the lessons we need. If there's any updates, you get them because you have lifetime access. Deb says she's a little hesitant because she's going to retire next year. And Deb, I totally get that. What do you want your last year to look like? What do you want your writing instruction to look like? Do you want to simplify that and really make a big impact for your students this year? I think it would be an amazing way to end your career. So that would be one of my thoughts about that. But definitely those of you who are thinking about this more long-term, the whole lifetime access is such a big deal because you can take the course and then you can reevaluate how writing went, decide if you want to come back and take another lesson again. So I don't, if you're here, was there a story that really resonated with you? Because it was an amazing morning. We heard from so many incredible teachers, and I feel like they all spoke to me. I feel like I resonate with Craftivities. I resonated with all of the front loading everything, or the modeling the whole essay. I did all of that. Or I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm going to kind of avoid it. I don't have a routine and a procedure. Every one of those stories described me at a certain point in my teaching journey. So yeah, I loved Nicole. Her students grew so much. She gave some numbers from the rubric that just had me wowed. Amber, in the way that she signed up before she even started in the classroom. And I was like, that would have been amazing. Christina did the same. And Christina taught virtually last year, and her students made massive growth. Her stories of how excited her students were really got me. Darcy was a veteran teacher who had been teaching writing and literacy for a long time, and she still joined the master class because she realized that she needed some better strategies for fourth grade that she didn't have in her toolbox. Of course, I love talking to BJ about the Craftivities and how all our writing looked the same because we were writing it for them in essence. She said she was the chief editor. I loved that. I love hearing from Tracy, who said, I thought I was really good at teaching writing. I didn't think I was good at teaching writing, but I thought I was a good writer. So therefore I thought I was going to be good at teaching writing, but I love how she realized she was front loading everything. And then her students weren't making as much growth because of that. And I think Jennifer had a similar story, but she also told us that she did a lot of the writing ahead of time, as did Shelby. I love that Shelby was teaching in second grade. We get a lot of second grade teachers that say, but they're only in second grade. Not so be writing masterclass strategies work in second grade. And of course, I loved hearing from Karen and how much she really loved the masterclass and how it was one of the best PD experiences she's had. So wow, if you missed any of the stories, they'll all be here if you want to come back and watch any of them. But if you have questions about the masterclass, this is the time to ask, because we are closing registration on Thursday, not opening for another year. So it's notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. The course comes with 7 modules, and the modules are filled with short videos that are going to walk you through step by step everything you need to know, from the mini lesson to the independent writing, to the conferencing, the grading, the sharing, even how to start at the beginning of the year, because that's tricky too. And then You also are going to get some bonuses. And I'm pretty excited about the bonuses. One of the bonuses you heard a lot about today, and that is the Facebook group. You will get an 8-week members-only Facebook group. And you heard the alumni talking about how amazing it is. So you're going to want to be in there. I'm going to do weekly Q&As, and I don't even need these on anymore. But I'm doing weekly Q&As inside of that Facebook group to answer anything that, as you're watching it, you're like, wait, what do you mean by that? What should I do about this? I'm going to answer those questions for you. At the end of the 8 weeks, you will be invited to our alumni Facebook group, and you're going to love it there. It is that family that you heard the alumni talking about. And bonus number 2 is actually an extra module. So we take you through the whole process of writing workshops, setting up a writing workshop that's not chaotic, like the one you might be used to. But after that, then you're ready for the extra bonus module, which will take you through some of the tougher skills that we have to teach our students in narrative, informational, and opinion. I went ahead and pulled out some of the ones that are the hardest for our students to master, and I made videos with strategies for those particular lessons. I love how a lot of our teachers will watch that module just right before they go to teach that genre. So if they're going to teach opinion, then they'll go through and watch those specific videos so that they feel even more confident about the lessons that are coming. And then I saved the best for last. I'm super excited about a bonus we added this year. It is a ticket to my first ever virtual event, Not So Wimpy Teacher Live. And the theme of this event is falling in love with teaching again. After the year you've had, it's easy to feel burnt out. It's easy to feel like a little bit like it's hard to get excited about next year after everything you've gone through. So the Masterclass is going to make writing easier, but we recognize that there's so many other things on your plate, and we want to give you some really valuable tools and strategies that are going to make teaching more fun. So we're going to talk about making lesson plans quicker, grading faster, going home earlier, having the work-life balance that you so crave and deserve. We're bringing productivity experts and teacher experts on to this event to give you really practical strategies. This isn't just going to be all like foo-foo, like, self-care, take a bubble bath kind of thing. This is going to be like real actionable strategies, how to get your lesson plans done quicker so you can go home. And the only people who get to attend this virtual event are my Masterclass teachers. So that's the only way to get a ticket this year is to join the Masterclass. The virtual event itself is actually worth $50 per person, but you get a free ticket for being in the Masterclass. So that right there, it already makes the Masterclass a massive value for you. And if you save a bunch of time on grading and lesson planning and responding to parent emails and stuff like that this year, that will be worth the entire course for sure. So you're going to get the Masterclass and all 3 of those bonuses when you join us today. notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, if you have questions, stick them in the comments or head over to notsowimpyteacher.com/yes. And we have a chat box there that you can stick your question in, and we'll get your answer as quick as possible because we know time is ticking and the Masterclass registration is closing on Thursday. Can't wait to see you inside of the Masterclass. Have a not so wimpy day.